All right, folks, thanks for being here tonight. We're just going to give it a few more minutes before we get started. We're almost at 5:30, which was our official start time. But we've got, like I said a few minutes ago, we've got nearly 1,000 people registered tonight, and we may have actually topped that 1,000 people. So we want to make sure that we give everybody an opportunity to get on. So just give us a few more minutes, sit tight, and we'll get started. Folks, for those of you that are just joining us in the last couple minutes or so, just know that we're giving it just a couple more minutes here to let folks jump on that registered. We were at just shy of 1,000 people, and we're almost at 600. So we're going to give it another minute or two, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, folks, things seem to be slowing down on people joining the meeting. So I'm going to go ahead and get things started. I'm Michael Conway. I'm the State Insurance Commissioner. I'm going to turn it over to Vince Plymell to do some basic housekeeping pieces, and then now we're recording. So we'll do some basic housekeeping pieces, and then we'll get started. So Vince, it is all yours.
Thanks, Commissioner. Just some housekeeping items. We do have American Sign Language interpretation for this. So when we do move to the question and answer portion of this, we will ask that people raise their hand and if possible, turn on their camera so that the ASL interpreter can see them to translate their question. We also have live Spanish recording as well. And for those folks, if you see a little globe in the bottom of your screen, you can click over to the Spanish channel and get live Spanish translation. Again, when we move to the question and answer portion of the evening, just be mindful of it that the Spanish translators are working hard to translate those questions. So speak clearly and loudly. We will be taking questions. I saw there was something in the chat. Please submit your comments. Those will be coming to us. We'll be recording those. We won't be able to get to all of the questions this evening, I'm sure. But please know that we will be working to get all those questions and get back to folks in the coming days on their questions. Hopefully, a lot of the information we pass along does answer a lot of those questions. One other thing, there is closed captioning available for this. That link was in the chat. I can put it in the chat again where folks can get that information. And Commissioner, I can turn it back over to you.
Thanks, Vince. Let's go to the next slide. So folks, the governor is going to be joining us. At least the plan is for him to join us. He's got a bit of a busy night in front of him, but he should be hopefully on in about 10 minutes or so. So when the governor comes on, we'll kick it to him. He wanted to make sure that he had an opportunity to come and talk with everybody tonight. But the basic agenda for tonight, along with the governor's comments, we want to make sure that we're getting you all some key insurance information. The vast majority of what we're going to be talking about tonight is going to be about homeowners insurance, but we're going to talk about auto insurance and health insurance as well. And then we want to get to some information about the Disaster Assistance Center too, of course. Vince, let's go to the next slide. So, folks, these are the goals of the meeting, but these are the kind of tangible goals that if folks are coming after the meeting tonight, and they're just reviewing the slide deck, that they're able to review the slide deck, know what they're going to be able to get into and understand as they go. But there's the more human to human aspect of this too. You all are dealing with an unbelievable tragedy. My heart truly breaks for everything that you all are going through. You've lost your homes, but with your homes, you've lost everything. A lot of you have lost everything that went with it. You've lost memories. You've lost things that have been passed down from family members. You've lost gifts. You've lost parts of your heart and parts that it's going to be incredibly hard for you to build back. You've lost your kids' artwork from growing up, and it's not lost on me, folks, that I have a piece of artwork behind me that my now 15-year-old stepdaughter painted about 8 years ago. And I thought long and hard about whether I was going to leave that up for this conversation tonight. I put it up, folks, 2 years ago when the pandemic started. And to give you a kind of a flavor of where I am in my house right now, I'm in my bedroom, my wife and I's bedroom. I've been in this room for the most part for meetings for the last 2 years. And when the pandemic hit, we put up that piece of artwork. It was a blank wall. We put up that piece of artwork really so that there would be a conversation piece for the Zoom meetings that I was going into. But that's exactly what it's been for the last 2 years. It's been a conversation piece. The vast majority of the time when I got into a Zoom meeting with folks for the first time, they would want to know why I had a painting of a lion that was clearly drawn by a kid behind me. It was never going to be the case that I got a 10 out of 10 from the room rater folks, but I wanted to make sure that it at least had something that was a conversation piece. But it's not lost on me that you all, many of you, lost all of those pieces of artwork from your kids. And that's why I was going to take it down. I was going to take it down because I didn't want to have something like that standing there as a reminder to you all. But I left it up for that reason. I left it up so that every night when I go to bed, it reminds me that I've got more work to do for you all. That I've got more work to do to make sure that I'm helping you all rebuild your lives. Every night when I get up in the morning, it's going to remind me that I've got more work to do to help you all rebuild your lives. Every Zoom meeting that I'm in, because one of the worst parts about Zoom meetings, from my vantage point at least, is that you have to stare at yourself during Zoom meetings the entire meeting. You don't get to kind of zone out. You have to stare at yourself. But now that line's going to be there reminding me that I have more work to do for you all. And it's going to remind our team at the DOI that we've got more work to do every time they're in a meeting with me. And very importantly, folks, it's going to remind insurance companies every time they're in meetings with me. It's going to remind insurance company representatives every time they're in meetings with me. That line is going to be sitting over my shoulder, reminding them that they have more work to do to take care of you all. So with that, the governor just joined us. So I'm going to pause here, and Gov, I will turn it over to you. Gov, you're muted, Gov.
Me. There we go.
There
Thank you.
there
Whatever
you
you
go.
need to unmute me. Look, I'm going to be brief because this is really about trying to get you information you need, and you have a great person in Commissioner Conway, a member of my cabinet. He fights for consumers. We'll fight for you. We'll make sure that everybody gets what they can. Very soon, our governor's office will be adding a person with responsibility for working with you, the families that have suffered loss, to make sure that the state can provide everything you need. I visited the one-stop center. Many of you have been through already. The insurers are there. We lost about 1,000 homes. Each one really a treasure for those who lost what they have. I mean, so many pets were left behind, family memories. Tonight, we wanted to bring you access to our leading experts on insurance. So as you talk to your insurance companies, you know you're not alone. They're regulated by the state. They, I think, hopefully they want to work with you. They tell us they all do, and they want to help, but we want to help when there are disagreements. And for those of you who have damage in your home, it's actually harder, right? You lost your home. It's effectively totaled. The financial piece should go more smoothly. But when you have damage to inventory, it's a little more complicated. Smoke damage, some fire damage, photographs, documentation, so important. If you haven't started the process of filing a claim, do it. You can visit, if you don't know how to contact your insurance company, you can search for the insurance company claims file, and you can show up at our center on South Public Road in Lafayette, the Disaster Assistance Center, 1755 South Public Road. I was there yesterday. People were getting through to the insurance right away, really quickly. You can register with FEMA there too. FEMA can help a little bit for losses on top of insurance. Not a lot, but they help. They have, I think, 2 pots of money, about 38,000 each, that can potentially help people if your losses were greater than your insurance covered. And then, of course, we've also brought the philanthropic community there. There's been an outpouring of donations for your benefit. And that's what's funding for those of you who've gotten them already. Things like lodging cards, prepaid cash cards, all of those things that you might need in the short term are at the Disaster Assistance Center in Lafayette. This is not going to be quick or fast. The worst part was a tragedy of losing your home or having your home damaged. But we know that rebuilding your lives, hopefully your home, is something that will occur, but it won't be overnight. And we just want to let you know that on the insurance side, we watch them, we regulate them. We have some pointers for you. Conway is a great consumer advocate in that position of insurance commissioner for the state of Colorado. And I'll turn it back over to Mike. Back to you, Mike.
Thanks, Gov. And thank you very much for being here and sharing those thoughts and those words. So folks, you've got, as the governor said, you've got our commitment to make sure that we're doing everything in our ability to take care of you. And I promise you that line is going to sit over my shoulder and remind everybody that that's what our role is going to be. That's what our goal is going to be going forward. It's not going to just be the conversation piece anymore. It's going to be a lot more than that. So the more tangible goals of the meeting. So we want to provide you with some basic information, folks. Like I said at the front end when we're going through the agenda, it's really going to be primarily about homeowners insurance, but we're going to go over some auto and health insurance too. We're going to keep tonight high level, folks. We're not going to get into the weeds on a lot of different issues because we wanted to make sure that we got you the most important information tonight that we possibly could. Even at that really most important level, we still ended up at nearly or just over 30 slides. But we also want to make sure that we take plenty of time to answer your questions. So we're going to get through the slides, but if we get to about 6:30 or so, before we've gotten through all the slides, we're going to stop and we're just going to give you an opportunity to ask any questions that you have. Because folks, this is the start of a conversation. This is the start of what it will become a series of town hall meetings. And as we go through those series of town hall meetings, we'll dive deeper and further into specific issues that we think that you all want to talk about and that you all need to have an opportunity to discuss with us. But this is really going to be, like I said tonight, that base level of kind of base understanding of some insurance related issues that we think it's really important for you to know about at the front end of this process. So Vince, let's go to the next slide. So Vince, I think we're slightly out of order, but we'll go with this one. So folks, if your home is uninsured, the majority of what we're going to be talking about tonight is about for folks that have homeowners insurance and auto insurance. But if your home is uninsured, FEMA most likely will be able to help, at least to some degree. So it's going to be incredibly important for you to go to that website that we've got on this slide and register with FEMA. Register with FEMA so that they can assist if your home is uninsured. You're going to have to go through the process of working with FEMA to understand exactly what they need and what you're going to have to provide to them. But that's going to be an invaluable resource for you. Also, go to the Disaster Assistance Center. The Disaster Assistance Center is going to be able to help you with all sorts of different resources that they've got set up there. But FEMA is going to be a really important place for you to go and get registered right off the bat if you haven't done so already. I did see a question in the chat, and I'll try and catch them as we go, folks, that I think are relevant. Renters should also go to this site if you're uninsured on the renter side, and also register with FEMA to get some help. But go to the DAC if you're a renter too. Vince, let's go to the next slide. So, folks, if you haven't heard anything that I've said up to this point, if you don't have an opportunity or you just zone out as we're having the conversation going forward, this slide, come back to this slide, because these are the most important points that we really want to drive home tonight. And you're going to hear me repeat a lot of these points tonight. So first and foremost, safety. Make sure that you're staying safe and following all the safety measures that the authorities put out there for you. The authorities did, honestly, folks, a miraculous job to make sure that we limited the amount of lost life that we have up to this point. We've only got 2 people missing. When I've had conversations with my counterparts throughout the country, mostly in the West, that have had disasters similar to ours, it truly is a miracle in comparison. So these folks obviously want to make sure that they're taking care of us. So please listen to them. Please follow their guidance. Start the claim process as soon as possible. If you haven't done so already, that's going to be the most important step for you to take. You need to start the claim process because a lot of what we're going to be talking about tonight really does flow from the beginning of that claim process. If you don't have a copy of your policy, request it from your insurance company. They have to provide it to you within 3 days. And most likely they're going to be able to provide it electronically to you much faster. So please get that policy because it's going to be important for some of the pieces that we're going to talk about tonight. If your home is a total loss, the company, your insurance company, must offer you at least 30% of your contents coverage, must offer to pay you 30% of your contents coverage immediately. So make sure that that's a really important piece and that ties directly to why it's so important to start that claim process if you haven't so far. Documentation, folks. This is going to be the piece that you will hear me repeat more often than anything else as we go tonight. There's really 2 components of documentation that are going to be really, really important. One, as you all are living outside your homes, if you are going to have a home to go back to, but for those of you that have complete losses in your homes, receipts are going to be incredibly important for you to be able to get compensated from your insurance company as you go forward. And then also for those of you that had either partial losses or that just are in the fire zone, but your home made it through the fire disaster. When you go back, it's going to be really important for you to document as you go back, because as the governor was talking about, there very well may be damage in your homes that just isn't apparent, but we're going to get into that as we go as well. So let's go to the next slide. So beginning the claim process, as we talked about on that last slide, it's vitally important for you to start that as soon as you possibly can. The insurance companies are at the Disaster Assistance Center. They've got an insurance village set up. So if you head out there, they'll be able to help you. But you can also call their 1-800 numbers and start that process. Get the claim number and the names and contact information for the assigned adjuster and their manager. Your insurance company should be able to provide that quickly. And it's going to be important for you as you're working through the process to understand who the assigned adjuster is. Folks, that may change as you work through your claim. But it's also going to be important for you to know who you need to talk to on the management side if you need to escalate your claims. So, and then make sure that your company has your contact information. Make sure that they've got your cell phone number, your email address, a good mailing address for you as you're moving in order to make sure that they're getting you the information that you need. So Vince, let's go to the next slide. Understanding your policy benefits, folks. As we talked about at the beginning, request a copy of your policy if you don't have one, and your insurance company will get it to you within 3 business days. They should be able to provide it to you electronically, obviously a lot faster than that. Reading the policy, folks, I know is reading your insurance policy can be a daunting task, but it's going to be important for you to understand the benefits that you have available to you. If there are things that you just don't understand, if there are questions that you have, talk to your insurance agent. Your insurance agent is going to be a valuable resource for you going forward. Talk with your adjuster. And the reason why we've got the adjuster underlined there is that there's actually 3 different types of adjusters that are out there. And this is going to be one of those one of the places that we're going to come back to in future town hall meetings, and we're going to dive a little bit deeper into. But the companies, your insurance company will have adjusters that are employed directly by the insurance company. They also very well may hire independent adjusters that are paid for, that are under contract with the insurance company and paid for by the insurance company. And then the third are what are called public adjusters. Public adjusters are licensed by us. They're licensed by the Division of Insurance. If you make a decision to hire a public adjuster, you'll have to pay for the public adjuster yourself. Typically, contracts with public adjusters are a percentage of the claim that you'll have coming to you. But we'll talk about that in more detail, like I said, at future meetings. But it's really important for you to understand that there's going to be 3 different types of adjusters that you might be talking to as you work through the claim process. And then contact us, contact the Division of Insurance. If you've got questions, if there's things in your policy that just don't quite make sense, or you just want to have a basic conversation about what's in your policy, give us a call and we'll have our contact information at the end. So Vince, let's go to the next slide. So understanding your policy benefits. I wanted to limit the acronyms as much as we possibly could tonight, but there are certain acronyms, folks, that you're just going to hear. You're going to hear over and over again as you're working through the process. So I want you to hopefully start to get used to them tonight. So actual cash value and replacement cost value. Actual cost value, you see the definition there. It's the amount of time, the amount the item was worth at the time of loss, at the time of the fire. Replacement cost value is the amount it costs to replace that item. So what does that actually mean in real world English? So think about it from the perspective of a roof, folks. And let's say you put a new roof on your house 10 years ago. And at that point, the roof, to put that new roof on your house, it cost you $15,000. And Vince, we can go to the next slide. Over time, that roof does what insurance companies call, they talk about it through the depreciation lens. So it'll depreciate over time. So if you put that roof on your house 10 years ago and it cost $10,000, they might tell you that today it's only worth $5,000 because it's depreciated by $5,000. That actual cash value amount that they're going to pay you right at the front end of your claim is $5,000. When you replace the roof and when you're going through the process of replacing the roof, they'll pay out additional sums in order to get to that replacement cost value. That's called depreciation, folks. And if you have questions about depreciation, if you have questions about how exactly your insurance company calculates depreciation, ask them. They're required by law to give you that information. So make sure you ask. And that goes for everything, folks. If you have any questions at all, it doesn't need to be anything that we're talking about tonight specifically, but as you go, if you've got questions, ask them. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions of your insurance company, and don't be afraid to ask questions of us. So let's go to the next slide. So the basic parts of your policy, folks. Coverage A is your dwelling coverage, so that's your home. Coverage B is going to be other structures. So the freestanding garage is the example that we have here, but it's things like sheds. In today's world, a lot of people were putting kind of freestanding offices outside their home. Coverage C, we're going to talk more about as we go here. That's your personal property. That's where that inventory comes into play that Governor Polis was talking about. Coverage D is additional living expense. It's going to be another piece that we start to unpack tonight. But both of those in particular, those will be topics that we come back to in future meetings, and we really start to unpack in more detail, and we get you answers to your questions, but I'm sure some of you will have questions that you want to get into tonight. So please don't hesitate. Then the last component here are those additional coverages. So those will usually be added by endorsement, and it's high cost things. So high cost jewelry, guns are quite often added by endorsement. Artwork can be as well. So Vince, let's go to the next slide. Debris removal. So this is obviously an incredibly important first step in the conversation of the recovery. It's complex, folks, and it's complex because of the toxic substances that are out there. They're obviously harmful to you. They're harmful to the environment. It's going to be really important for us all to follow FEMA and local guidance as we go through the debris removal. Vince, let's go to the next slide. This is going to be a piece, folks, that we've got it that as we go, we'll have more information for you. As we sit here right now, tonight, what I can tell you is the state is working with Boulder County and the cities of Louisville and Superior on coordinated debris removal with FEMA. But those conversations are ongoing. And I don't want to overpromise you things tonight that I'll have to walk back later. So as we sit here right now, what I can tell you is that the conversations are ongoing. We're learning lessons from the way that other states have tried to approach the problem. And there's going to be more information coming soon. But I want to make sure that you know that those conversations are happening and we're going to figure out the best path forward on debris removal. Vince, let's go to the next slide. So additional living expenses. And you're going to hear people refer to additional living expenses as ALE. So ALE benefits, they're going to be available to folks if you have a total loss in your home. And it was that total loss is as a result of fires, as they all were, or it's uninhabitable. Your home is uninhabitable due to the fire-related damages. ALE is going to kick in. ALE benefits will be in play for you until you're able to return to your home. If for any reason, and this will be kind of further down the road, it won't happen anytime soon. But once we get to the point where we're a year out, if you only have ALE benefits in your policy at a year or 2 years, which is I think the vast majority of the policies that'll be out there, if your insurance company is telling you that they're going to cut off your ALE benefits and you can't get back into your home yet, call us. I want to have those conversations. We want to have those conversations, and we want to make sure that we're taking care of you so that we can get those ALE benefits extended if we need to. We're going to be issuing an emergency regulation in the next day or two to extend ALE benefits it's going to be for the Grand County fires from last year because their ALE benefits are about to expire. At least some of them are coming close to expiring. So there'll be opportunities for us to have those conversations, but please let us know if you're hearing from your insurance company, like I said, a year from now or 2 years from now, that ALE benefits might be cut off. Call us as soon as you hear that. So ALE benefits, this last bullet point on this slide, they may also be available for mandatory evacuation. That's going to be dependent upon your individual coverage in your policy. So that again goes back to why it's so important to start the claim process as soon as you possibly can, so that we can find out if you do have that coverage in your policy. So Vince, let's go to the next slide. So keeping on the ALE topic, these are the types of things that are covered by ALE, folks. So rent for temporary living arrangements. That's going to include if you're renting space from a friend or family member. So keep that in mind as you're working through where you may want to live long-term. Increased food costs, obviously, especially right now. While you all may very well be living in hotels or you're living in temporary housing of some kind, you likely will have increased food costs. So it's going to be really important for you to keep those receipts for all of those things. Commuting and other just general living expenses. So some of you may have longer commutes as a result of the fact that you're displaced from the fire. Keep those receipts as well. The other living expenses, folks, it's going to be everything from the toothpaste that you had to replace to the ketchup bottle that you had to put into your new fridge. All of those are going to be new living expenses, and all of those things add up really quick. So let's go to the next slide. That's where the documentation, folks, why it is so incredibly important. Keep your receipts as you're going. Keep your receipts. Try your best to stay organized. It's going to make your life easier as you work through the claim process if you are as organized as you possibly can. Because those little everyday items really do add up incredibly quick for folks, for you. I'll know they're going to add up incredibly quick for you. So make sure you're keeping receipts, make sure you're keeping all of the documentation that you have. Thanks, Vince. Now we're on to the housing slide. So additional living, one of the things that, as we talked about a minute ago, that is covered by additional living expenses is going to be your housing. So work with your insurance company. Some of them have contracted services to find you temporary long-term housing. I know a lot of you are already, anecdotally, at least we've heard that a number of you are already finding housing on your own. I would encourage you to have conversations as early as you possibly can with your insurance company about what you're finding, and have the conversation to make sure that it's going to be, that it will be covered, that whatever home that you found, wherever you found it, that it's going to be covered by your ALE. You don't have to use your company's vendor, please know that, but it very well may be the case that if you use your company's vendor, that it'll help streamline the claims process for you and just make it a little bit easier. And folks, anything that you can do right now to make your life a little bit easier is helpful. So Vince, let's go to the next slide. Your personal property. So this is the piece that we talked about at the beginning, folks, that your insurance company, if you had a total loss on your fire, and it was your primary residence, they're required to pay you at least, or offer to pay you at least 30% of the contents coverage that you had in your policy. So I want to stress a couple of things here, though. They're required to offer to pay you at least 30%. You should not be walking away thinking that you are only going to get that 30% of your contents coverage. It is almost always going to be the case, folks, that you are due and owed more than that 30%. But that 30% can be incredibly important and incredibly useful as you're trying to rebuild your life right now. And that payment isn't contingent upon an inventory, and we'll get to the inventory here in a couple of minutes. But you're due that payment, you're due that offer, and I would imagine most of you would like to get that money at this point. You're due that payment right now. You don't have to put an inventory together. So if you don't have it, if you haven't received it, ask your insurance company for it. Vince, let's go to the next slide. So your personal property. It is also going to, the actual cash value calculation is going to come into play here too, folks. So a couch that you purchased 10 years ago, or your bed that you purchased 15 years ago, that very well, you'll get paid out initially on the actual cash value for the contents of your home. And then when you go and you replace them, you'll get the replacement cost value, assuming that you have that coverage in your policy. But again, that's why it's so incredibly important for you to keep any documentation, all documentation that you have, as you're rebuilding your lives, as you're buying things like a new winter jacket, things that in a normal life you wouldn't think for a million years that you would need to keep a receipt for. All of those components, all of those pieces, it's going to be really important for you to make sure that you hold on to those receipts and you keep things as organized as you possibly can. Vince, let's go to the next slide. Inventory on personal property, folks. So this is one of the areas that we get the most complaints, and it's one of the biggest frustrations for homeowners when they have total losses. And candidly, folks, some of the stories that I've heard, especially some of the stories that I've heard recently, are maddening and drive me up the wall. And the insurance companies know that they've got a lot of work to do on the personal property inventory side of things. And I honestly believe that they're committed to finding ways to streamline the ability for folks to actually fill out inventories and get inventories to them. Some companies already have established methods, as we have in this bullet, to expedite the process. But I can tell you that at least I am hopeful that more companies are going to be on board with finding new ways and innovative ways to streamline things as much as possible. United policyholders. So folks, United policyholders, and Amy Bach very well may be on the call tonight, and some of the other folks from United policyholders hopefully are. They're going to be an incredibly valuable resource for you too going forward. Their services they provide free of charge. They have inventory forms and worksheets to help you fill out your inventory. If that would be something that you would think that was helpful, but they're also just a great resource to have conversations with too. I trust them implicitly. So please know that if you need advice, you can absolutely come to us, and I want you to come to us first, but you can also go to the good folks at United Policyholders. They're actually, I believe, having a webinar on Sunday too, to just walk through what they can provide to folks as well. So let's go to the next slide. So sticking on that inventory piece. So photos and videos are going to help you establish your claim, folks. And I can't tell you how valuable those are going to be in ways that you just you haven't had any reason to think about before. But you all most likely have photos of your homes. And I would encourage you to think outside the box as you're going through the inventory process, as you're filling out any inventories, as you're working with your insurance company on building that inventory. Ask friends and family if they have photos taken while visiting your home. Ask for holiday and birthday photos and videos. Look at your credit card accounts and Amazon and Wayfair and all of those different types of online accounts that you may have purchased things through. Those are going to be invaluable resources for you to kind of rebuild what you had in your home. But those photos, those videos are going to be key as you go forward. Vince, let's go to the next slide. So up to this point, folks, we've really been talking mostly about total losses and what to think about if you've had a total loss of your home. There are a number of you on the call that are going to go back to either homes that appear to have completely survived the fire or did survive the fire or maybe have partial damage. For those of you that are going back to homes that might have partial damage, it's going to be really important for you to take any steps, if you do take steps, to kind of perform any emergency repairs in your home. So if you need to protect plumbing from freezing, so those costs of kind of fixing those immediate needs as you go back into your home, again, those will be covered by your insurance company. But documentation is going to be vitally important. So make sure as you're going through, you both take pictures of the damage before you repair and perform any emergency repairs, and also after, and then keep receipts for anything that you needed to purchase in order to actually perform those emergency repairs. Vince, let's go to the next slide. So, other homes in the fire zones. One of the pieces, and this is what the governor was talking about at the front end. For those of you that have homes that survived the fire, if your home was in the fire zone and it appears that your home survived and there wasn't any damage at all, I still want you to document everything. I want you to document everything as you go back into your home, because it very well may be the case that you have damage to your home that just isn't apparent from the outside. There isn't any physical damage from the outside that you can see. But it very well may be the case that you have smoke, soot, and ash damage. There might be heat damage in your home. So take pictures, take videos as you go back in your home, and then take pictures and videos as you find things as you're living in your home over the next weeks or months, because you'll continue to find things that could be wrong. So it's going to be important for you to document that as you go. That initial kind of impression that you have as you walk back into your home is going to be really important as you go forward. Vince, let's go to the next slide. So the Disaster Assistance Center, the DAC is located at 1755 South Public Road in Lafayette. We are out there. The Division of Insurance is out there. We are going to be out there for the foreseeable future, but there's a whole host of resources out there. There's mental health counseling out there. FEMA is there. The other state and local agencies are there too, that can help you with housing and employment, and just to get documents so that you can rebuild your life, things like driver's licenses. But I can't encourage you all to go out there enough, because it is that one-stop shop that the governor talked about. Also out there is the Insurance Village. And Vince, let's go to the next slide. So these are the companies that are currently out at the Insurance Village as we sit here tonight. American Family, Allstate, Auto Owners, Nationwide, State Farm. I can't see the last company, but I think it's Shelter, if I'm remembering correctly. Farmers is also set up at one of their agencies. USAA is out there too. Thank you, Heidi. Farmers is set up at one of their agencies. It's my understanding that they may be coming out to the Insurance Village as well. And folks, it's going to be incredibly important for you to go out there and if you need it in-person help, that you have the conversation with your insurance companies at the Insurance Village. I know, folks, that nobody wants to deal with an insurance company. Nothing good is happening in your life if you have to deal with your insurance company, and that is certainly the case for all of you. But what I can tell you is that I absolutely took it as a sign of good faith that when we picked up the phone I can't remember, folks, if it was the day of the fire or if it was the next day. But when we picked up the phone to talk with the insurance company trade groups about the idea of getting the insurance village set up, their immediate response was that they were going to get all of the companies out there that they possibly could. And I am confident that while these are the companies that we have out there today, that we've got more coming. And I truly do take that as a sign of good faith. I know that whenever there are disasters like this, the first thing that you hear about are the horror stories about insurance companies and the horror stories that people had of dealing with their insurance companies. What you don't hear about, though, folks, is that the vast majority of claims that people file proceed well, and they proceed with the companies acting in good faith. And I can promise you that we're going to be watching at the Division of Insurance to make sure that that is the case with this disaster. I can promise you that we're going to be watching incredibly closely and ensuring that the insurance companies do everything that they can to take care of you. But I really, truly do take it as a sign of good faith that they got out to this insurance village as soon as they possibly could. But there's going to be bumps in the road, and we're going to make sure that we're watching to take care of you when those bumps happen. And you have my commitment to do that. But what I would encourage you to do is to file those claims, work through those claims with your insurance company. If you need to hire, if you get to the point where you're beyond frustrated with things that are happening with your insurance company, come to us, and I want to help you, and we want to help you work through those issues. But you'll also have the opportunity, if you need to hire attorneys, and the opportunity to hire public adjusters too. So Vince, let's go to the next slide. So the rebuild process, hiring a contractor. There's obviously a couple bullet points here, folks, but the main takeaway for this component that I really want to make sure that I drive home tonight, two main takeaways, really. One, don't take the first contractor that comes to you just because they're the first contractor. And that leads to the second point. Really make sure that you're checking references. Hopefully you can check references with people that have dealt with your contractor or a contractor of any kind that you're hiring that are local. That's the best case scenario for you. So you can know that contractor has worked locally, and they've done good work for people that are local. But more than anything else, just check references, and I can't stress that enough. The other piece that I do think is really important is to make sure that you've checked their licensure, and that they have done work with insurance companies. They understand that process. The vast majority of contractors that are going to come to you will understand the process of working with insurance companies, but make sure that they do have that history in their past as you check their references. Vince, let's go to the next slide. So moving to auto claims. Just like with your homeowner's insurance, folks, it's going to be really important for you to start the process and to file a claim with your auto insurance company. If you only had liability coverage on your auto, so meaning that if you got in a car crash, and if you were at fault in that car crash, that your auto insurance company would only pay for the vehicle that you crashed into, and they wouldn't pay to repair your vehicle. Unfortunately, it is likely going to be the case that they won't replace your vehicle. You'll likely need comprehensive coverage in order for your auto insurance company to replace your vehicle. Now, FEMA, and we'll add the FEMA website onto this slide too. So folks, when they get to this point, if they're looking for the FEMA website to help with FEMA for on the auto side, they can just go to this slide as well. But FEMA very well may be able to help you if you only had vehicles that had liability coverage on them, or a vehicle that had liability coverage on them. Then FEMA may be able to provide assistance in order to replace one vehicle. So regardless of the number, at least it's our understanding as we sit here tonight, regardless of the number of vehicles you had, if you only had liability coverage on those vehicles, FEMA would only be able to provide you with coverage for one replacement vehicle. So let's go to the next slide. Health insurance issues. Health insurance companies that we regulate. So if you look at, for those of you that have your health insurance cards, if you don't have your health insurance card, contact your health insurance company and they'll provide you with a replacement card. But if on the front of that, ID card, it reads DOI on the front, any place on the front of that ID card, then we at the Division of Insurance regulate your health insurance. For those plans, and for the vast majority of plans, even those that we don't directly regulate, it's my expectation that they're all waiving prior authorizations for folks that are impacted by the fire. If for prior authorizations for prescription refills and durable medical equipment replacements, If that's not the case, call us. Call us, and we'll help you work through those issues. We'll make sure that we contact the insurance company, and we get you the coverage, and we get you the prescriptions that you need and the durable medical equipment that you need. Also, for folks that have been displaced and you're in different parts of the state, it very well may be the case that your insurance plan isn't in network in the part of the state that you land in. Call your insurance company. They'll help you find an in-network provider, or they'll help you get an exception to those in-network and out-of-network components of your health insurance plan. And if that doesn't work, call us. Vince, let's go to the next slide. So, folks, in a typical presentation, this would have been the slide that I would have started on. And on this slide, it would have been a slide of really probably 2 or 3 slides of the different roles that we have at the different division of insurance, the different pieces that we regulate within the insurance world, the different things that we do, the different types of entities that we license. None of that matters. None of that matters tonight. None of that matters to you. What matters to you, and the message that I want you to walk away with tonight, is that we're here to help you, and we're going to continue to be here to help you for the foreseeable future, for however long it takes us to get you back to the place where you're rebuilding those memories of all those memories that you lost. And we're going to be right by your side to help you get there. So that's the message that I want you to walk away with tonight, that we're here to help. Like I said before, there's going to be bumps along the way, but we're going to be here to help you get through those bumps. We're going to be here to help you get past those bumps with your insurance company. And you have my commitment that will continue to be our driving force. So Vince, let's go to the next slide. So here's our contact information, folks. This entire slide deck is going to be up on our website. So please don't feel like you need to write all of this down right this second. There's going to be plenty of opportunity for you to go and find this information too. But that's our phone number. That's our email address. If you have questions, contact us. Vince, next slide. All right, folks, so now we are at the point of questions. So we're going to have roughly 45 minutes tonight to get through questions that you all want to talk through tonight. Like Vince talked about at the front end, what we would like to do, we're going to make sure that we're tracking all of the questions that went into the chat. And we're going to build out an FAQ document on those questions. But what we've, in our experience, what's been the most productive in these types of meetings is to have folks just raise their hands, and we can have some back and forth. You're going to have some other folks within the division of insurance that are hop on with me to help answer your questions. And we've already got some folks raising their hands, so that is fantastic. Vince, I'm going to let you moderate how we are getting through the folks with their raised hands.
Yeah, give me 1 second here. Let me get to those folks here. All right. Matt Koshman, can you go ahead and unmute yourself so we can hear your question? And if you can't, put yourself on camera so our ASL interpreter can see you. But go ahead.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
We can.
There we go,
Great.
Matt.
Thank you so much for doing this. We greatly appreciate just your care and consideration here. Hey, quick question about the rebuilding efforts that were mentioned on one of the slides toward the end. We have a home in the Sagamore neighborhood that we lost. And since the entire neighborhood was lost, and since the entire neighborhood was built by a developer, I was just curious, should we be waiting to find out if a developer is going to come in and rebuild an entire neighborhood? Or should we get to work right away with an individual contractor, kind of everyone for themselves, and just get going on the rebuilding process? Thanks for any information you can provide on that.
Yeah, so it's a fantastic question. So one, just to make sure that I say this right off the bat, don't wait to file your claim. File your claim and get that process started. I know I beat that horse enough, but I want to make sure that I put that out there one last time. Probably not the last time, candidly. But so Vince, just to get into a little bit more detail. Okay. So we are, and my computer's telling me that my internet connection is unstable. So can you all still hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So we're actually in discussions with, we're trying to gather as much information as we possibly can about those to deal with these types of disasters previously. So folks in California, the folks in California and folks in Oregon, so that there are potentially options for consumers to have those types of the ability to kind of have a master plan rebuild if that's something that might make sense for a particular community. So more conversations about.
Commissioner, we were losing you there right at the end. You may want to turn off your video just while you do a couple of these responses, see if that improves something.
I will.
All right. And Rob Scott, you can go ahead and unmute and turn your camera on and ask your question.
Hey there. We had a home, 946 Arapahoe Circle. We lived there for 30 years and lost the whole thing. It was incredible. Three things. Why were we not issued a reverse 911 call? But that's not the main question. The main question I have is why, or will there be, and I know you addressed this in the meeting, we could really appreciate some federal and state support with our debris cleanup, because it's going to be an extensive process. The other thing that I want to share with Governor Polis would love to have some legislation to help protect those of us that are over 60 for underinsurance, and some more regulation on the insurance industry to make sure that doesn't happen. So those are my questions. I don't know that anything can be answered tonight except for maybe the debris cleanup question. But thank you again, I echo what the previous caller said about thanking you for doing this tonight. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, Rob, so I'm going to turn on my video. Hopefully I got the rest of the family off the internet, so my bandwidth is back to normal. But Vince, if I cut out, please don't hesitate to jump in right away. So Rob, on the debris removal, like I said, that's an ongoing conversation. My hope is that we have some good tangible answers for you in the very, very near future, but I don't want to overpromise to you what exactly is coming on that end. But it's absolutely something that you have a ton of resources being committed to right now to figure out what the right answer is, or what the right answers are really on debris removal.
Great, thanks.
But just on the legislation component of things, I fully expect there to be legislation coming, and I do think that there's already legislation that was in the works and that's been discussed publicly. Rapamable, I did see a comment from her earlier, so I know she's on, and she's been having some conversations about different ideas on potential legislation. But no, Rob, that I do expect that to come in the next session too.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
All right, Joanne Spears, if you can unmute and turn your camera on and ask your question.
See, I'm trying to build those pines back.
I'm trying. Did you have me?
There we go. We can hear you. We can hear you. And
Do you have my video? I tried, but it's not.
It went on for a second, but
There you go.
How's that?
Yep.
Okay. So then my understanding is, based on your information a little bit earlier, that the state and the federal government, everybody's sort of getting together on how to remove the rubbish. We had got the impression that we had to do that, but it's good that you have to do that, or you're going to do that, or maybe not. But are the insurance companies involved in that? And so does that rubbish removal, how does that play into our
No, not for us.
our insurance policy limits and that sort of thing?
Yeah, Joanne, those are excellent questions. And those are all questions that we're working through as we speak, both on and Rob, I think you're still unmuted, unfortunately.
Sorry, so bad. Sorry.
Oh, no problem. So Joanne, the insurance will be a part of the solution on paying for debris removal. That's just part of all of the different issues that we're trying to work through, both with our federal partners and at the county and at the state level. But as we have really tangible answers, I promise you that we'll get those to you as soon as we possibly can. I just really want to be careful about not over promising things to you all tonight. And then having to walk them back in the future. You are correct that the vast majority of folks out there that have total losses, that you do have coverage for debris removal in your policies. It's going to be different on a policy by policy basis, and I might ask Bobby and Bobby Baca and Tracy Garceau. So Bobby Baca is the director of our consumer services team, and Tracy Garceau is the lead for Bobby's team. And they're both on, and they may be able to provide you a little bit more information just at a general level, Joanne. But as a general matter, you will have coverage in your policy. And the policies vary. So it's going to be really important for you to talk through that with your insurance company. But we're also having those conversations, like I said, at the state and the federal level and at the local level to try and find a real kind of good solution that will take all of those things into consideration. Bobby or Tracy, anything you want to add in on that front?
No, I was just going to say it is dependent upon your policy contract. It could be a percentage debris removal or a flat amount. I think it's typically a percentage, but we would need to look at your policy contract to know.
But folks, just so you hear me say it again, we're going to get you more information on debris removal, and so we're going to get you more information. We'll get you answers as soon as we have them, and the insurance component will be a part of that. But hopefully, as we go, we'll be able to explain more how we think that will work. But just tonight, we just don't have real concrete answers.
All right, next, Brian DeLaura, if you can unmute yourself and turn on your camera and ask your question.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yep, we got you, Brian.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So I was a renter in the area and lost my home. Obviously, it wasn't a home that I owned. I was just renting it. I was curious if there was going to be either a separate one of these sessions for renters specifically, or if there are certain portions of these that I should kind of not pay attention to, or if there are any kind of renter specific things that I should be keeping in mind.
Yeah, Brian. So it's like with everybody, it's gonna be important for you to go out to the DAC and check on resources for renters. But to answer your direct question on will we have one specific for renters, the answer is yes. We haven't put a list together of exactly the specific town halls that we're going to have, but that's how we've handled these types of situations in the past. We tried to break the meetings down into subsets of either issues or subsets of groups that we think are important for us to have conversations with. And obviously renters are going to be a key part of that. But I would also encourage you to sign up for that FEMA assistance, that registration link that we've put out there on the slide deck. And then it was also put into the chat to make sure that you've started that process with FEMA. Bobby or Tracy, anything else you think we should add in there?
No, I think you've covered it, Mike, but I would encourage you to go to the Disaster Assistance Center. We do have our team over there answering questions, and we have received several questions regarding renters insurance. You do have coverages that are similar to the homeowners policy, your ALE coverage, replacement cost on your contents. So there's some similarities, but yeah, if you have any additional questions, or you can call our office. Our contact information will be listed as well, so you can always call my team.
Thanks, Brian.
Okay,
All right, Vince, who's next?
John Anderson, if you can unmute yourself and turn your camera on so we can see you and ask your question.
Hi, I'm most confused and need clarification on the personal property coverage on your policy. I understood that you explained it about the 30% and that's what they're required. So if your home you've lived in your home for 28 years and all of the contents have been reduced to ashes, are they not obligated to give you the amount that you insured that personal property for?
The policy limit.
So no, thank you very much for the question. It's going to be an important piece for us as we go forward. So that's where two pieces I think that it's really important for us to highlight that are related to your question. That 30%, so the 30% that we talked about, that's the 30% of the contents coverage as it's listed on your policy. And that's what the insurance company is required to offer you right off the bat. But that, please, folks, and I'll say it again just so everybody hears it, please do not think that is the total amount that you are due or owed going forward. but it is likely the case as we sit here right now, and we're gonna have lots of conversations with insurance companies. I was actually in a meeting with Amy Bach, who is with United Policyholders, the day of the fire. The day the fire started, literally as the fire started, we were in a meeting with her, and we were having a conversation about how in certain circumstances in other states, insurance companies have completely waived the requirement for inventories in big disasters. Please don't get me wrong that I'm promising that we're going to be able to make that happen here. But we're going to have conversations with insurance companies, like I said during the presentation, to do as much as we can to help streamline the process, because inventories are perennially, whenever people have total losses, one of the biggest problems that people go through. But to get into the actual kind of nuts and bolts of your question, ma'am, the inventory in a total loss situation pursuant to your policy, what your policy effectively most likely reads, and I'm talking in generalities here, is that in order for you to get the contents coverage, in order to get that policy, in order to get that paid out, you have to go through put together an inventory of what you had in your home, and based on that inventory, the insurance company would pay you what was on that inventory, the value of that inventory. That's the way most likely that your policy reads. But Bobby, jump in here if you think there's anything that we should add into that.
This is Tracy Garso, Bobby's lead. So I want to empathize with you. I heard you that these are, that you've had this content for a long time. It is an emotional and time-consuming process to fill out an inventory. So be prepared for that. And there are resources like the commissioner mentioned, United Policyholders and others. So if we can help at all, give us a call or utilize the nonprofits, but be prepared. It is often a very long and emotional process to go through your contents.
And folks, Tracy is one of our many rock stars at the division. And one of the reasons why I think she's a rock star is exactly what you just heard, that she'll be talking with a lot of you as you work through this process. And she is one of the most empathetic people that you will meet. But with that empathy, it also comes somebody that's going to help you work through the process and fight for you when we need to fight for you. So thank you, Tracy, for jumping in there. Ma'am, did we fully answer your question? I want to make sure that we did before we move on. Okay, if we didn't, reach out to us and we can continue that conversation. So Vince, let's keep moving.
Okay. Next, Jorge or George Bernate, if you can unmute yourself and put yourself on camera so we can hear your question.
Hi, thanks again for doing this for all of us. My question has to do with the current real estate market conditions in Colorado and general supply chain conditions worldwide. With that, I'm finding that for several of us, the building limit of insurance is significantly below initial estimates of replacement cost. Are there any conversations between the state and federal government and the insurance companies on options to close that gap?
Yeah, is it Jorge or is it George? I assume Jorge. So Jorge, it's a great question, and it's one that we've had from a variety of different sources. What I think the best response that we've got as we sit here right now is that we've got to work the claims process to see what the underinsurance, right? What Jorge is really talking about, folks, is a potential underinsurance problem that could be out there, that tied to the resource issues with the supply chain as the world exists right now. Jorge, I think it's going to be vital for us to work the claim process and see what the underinsurance issues are that are out there. FEMA does have some assistance for underinsurance as well. So it's going to be important for you to register with FEMA for that purpose, but you have to work through the entire process with your insurance company to see what the underinsurance problems may be. The other component of that, though, is that ALE piece that we talked about. So one of the problems that we've run into in Grand County, candidly, is the fact that we've had a hard time, the folks out there have had a hard time getting their homes rebuilt because they're in Grand County. There's a lot of resource issues connected to being in Grand County. And that's where those ALE extension components really come into play, Jorge. So as we sit here right now, yes, we're aware that there could be potential problems. We've got to work through the claims process. We have to work to see what the problems may be as we work through those claims process. FEMA does have some assistance that may be available to get to your federal government component, but that ALE component is going to be really important as we work through that process too. Tracy or Bobby, anything you want to add into that? Not hearing anybody jump in. So Jorge must have given an okay answer. Jorge,
Sorry,
Tracy?
Commissioner, this is Tracy. I couldn't find my mute button. Too many windows open. Yes, absolutely. I support your answer. It's something that we expect to hear through the recovery process.
So thanks for the question, Jorge. And as you're working through the recovery process, please don't hesitate to reach out if you have more questions along those lines.
You know, I want to ask our Spanish interpreters if there are any questions coming from our Spanish channel that they can relay to us. Okay, not hearing anything. So if so, let me know. Jason Grant, if you can unmute yourself and put your camera on so we can see and hear your question.
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thanks for doing this. We really appreciate it. The two questions I had, and these might both be difficult to give definitive answers to, but the first is, do you advise that we wait for clarification on the kind of FEMA and state level cleanup questions before we engage anyone to start that process? And the second question, and this is probably more complicated, is we need to make decisions around the ALE. And the ALE, as my policy is written, and I imagine a lot of people on the call's policy is written, has both a time limit and a dollar limit. And so as we're making decisions around the dollar limit in particular, but also the time limit, I appreciate the example you gave in Grand County. The issue here is I think none of us believe there's any scenario that we're going to have homes built in 12 months. Even if we were without a fire, it would be 2 years is what I've been told. So how do you advise we plan for that with the uncertainty around how that might be extended or might not be extended? So sorry for two questions, but appreciate your time on this.
No, Jason, please don't apologize for two questions, and ask as many questions as you want, folks, please, as we go. So on the debris removal, Jason, what I can tell you is that there is a ton of work going into trying to find a community-based answer for it to make it as simple as possible for you all. I can't advise you as to whether you should wait for that community-based answer. I know that's frustrating, but we get into kind of tricky territory when we start giving advice along those lines. But what I can tell you is that there are a ton of resources going into finding the right answer along those lines. I've got at least 2 meetings on my calendar tomorrow. And I think I'm about to add, after we get off tonight, I'm going to add a couple more with some of our counterparts in other parts of the country. So that's the best answer that I've got for you on that front, that there is a lot of work going into trying to make it as simple as we possibly can for you all. As far as the ALE coverage component of things, and that 12-month time frame, that sounds like might very well be in your policy. So Jason, that comes directly into that part of the conversation that we were having earlier, that as we are working through this process, and as we are working with the insurance companies, if it very well becomes the case that we don't think that it's going to be the consumers that you all will be able to rebuild in the time frame that is set forth in your policies, we're going to have lots of conversations with insurance companies about extending those time frames. I don't want to overpromise anything to you tonight, Jason, but I'm going to do everything that I possibly can to take care of you all. I know those time frames are going to be a problem. I know that they're going to be a problem, especially the 12-month timeframes. It's going to be incredibly difficult, if not maybe impossible, for homes to get rebuilt in that period of time when the resource demands that we're going to have are just going to be in place. Like I said, I don't want to overpromise anything to you tonight, Jason, but you have my commitment to work as hard as I possibly can to make sure that we're taking care of you.
All right, Carrie Nash, if you can unmute yourself and put yourself on camera to ask your question.
Well, thank you for your time. I ran across an interesting scenario in regard to ALE. Given the time frame to have your home rebuilt, I looked in at purchasing a home so that I could live to the standard of which I'm accustomed according to the insurance policy. And thank goodness somebody mentioned something to me. They said, you better check on that. And come to find out, and I checked with 2 carriers, you are not eligible, is what I've been told, to purchase a property because it betters your situation. And I said, even with the housing crisis, which we have such limited inventory. And I'd just like to see if you have any feedback on that.
Carrie, I don't have any initial feedback, and I don't want to lead you astray. It's not usually the case that I get stumped completely, but you stumped me completely on this one. But Tracy and Bobby, let me ask you to jump in here and help answer the question.
This is Tracy. If I understand the question, you want to use your ALE benefits towards the purchase of a home that you can live in while your home is being rebuilt. Is that the question? Carrie?
Yes.
Okay,
in other words, I'll buy the property, but my monthly payments, I would want ALE to be used because I still have a mortgage payment that I'm responsible for.
Right. So the policy doesn't go to that granular level, but based on what has happened in Grand County, what I've seen is the company will calculate the monthly cost of a replacement home similar to the one you lost, and they would give that to you monthly. Now you could use that towards your mortgage for your new home. But that is how you would access your ALE if you did purchase another home. So the companies basically owe you what your home would be worth monthly.
Well, I was told by 2 carriers, 2 large carriers, that no, I would not be able to do that. And they recommended I have a friend buy the house for me and then charge me rent, and that would be okay.
This may be something that we need to dig in a little further with your particular carrier. If you have an answer from your own carrier,
yeah, I do.
Yeah, then give us a call and see what we can do individually on that. Like I said, we have seen them handle that situation by paying what they would pay in rent somewhere else on a monthly basis. So I feel that they have set precedents. So let's see what we can do about helping you out in that situation.
Very good. Thank you.
Great. All right, Ken Black, if you can unmute yourself and put yourself on camera so we can hear your question.
Hi, I'm actually Mary Byers. I'm staying at Ken Black's place and he's letting me use his computer.
That's okay, Mary. Thanks.
Yeah. I actually have a couple of questions because I was a renter and I talked to the person today, the adjuster, and she wanted, of course, the list right away. And she said to me that the list could come peu a peu, just a little bit at a time. And I said, well, I didn't understand that. I thought we should get a bigger list together. And she says, no, that's not important. Just get the computers on there, stuff like that. Start with the expensive stuff. And then if you forget something, you can always give it later. And I just wanted to know if that's right. And she also told me, because I said I need about 5 or 10 days just because I had just moved into the place and it's gone. I lost my work. I lost everything in that, not just my living. where I lived. And I just said, I need a little time. And she says, well, then I'll put your claim on pause. I don't know if that's right. She says, yeah, we'll just put it on pause until you're ready. And it was very strange. I also, so those are, I don't know if you want to answer those and then I'll ask you the others, or if you want just the slew of questions.
Why don't we start with, it was Mary, right?
Yeah.
Why don't we start with those, Mary? And I'm going to ask Tracy or Bobby to kind of jump in here on the pause question, because that's the I think the immediate, the biggest part of your question, Mary, if I'm understanding you correctly. But let me start. I'm incredibly sorry that you're going through all of this 5-10 days after you moved into your place. I know how tough that is. But Tracy, you wanna jump in here and walk through
Sure.
the pause component?
Yeah, I'm sorry too, Mary. You do not have to submit an entire inventory. So what I'm hearing is really not uncommon. I'm not surprised. A lot of folks will put in an inventory with the large items because they're easy to list, right? And they cost a lot of money, and you might have receipts or some kind of support for them. And you could do it piecemeal. You could send it in. So I don't see anything wrong with that. As for the pause, it might be that the adjuster is trying to be empathetic and give you a little time. Your claim is not going to be closed. You have an active claim. So they may check in with you. I think when I hear that they're going to pause it, they might check in with you every month just to see how you're doing. But I wouldn't worry about that. Both of those issues I find just common.
Okay, great. And then the other one was as far as the ALE benefits and the 30%, is that also for renters?
So no, Mary, that's a statutory, that's a statute. So that's a law that's on the books in Colorado, and that is specific to primary residence on the homeowner side.
Okay. And then the other one is that I was actually going to change my policy. And I had it so that a new policy was starting on the 1st, but I never canceled the old one just because there's a huge price difference for me. The old policy that's with me on this journey was actually my mother's policy that I had changed into a renter's insurance, and it was incredibly expensive for me. And the new policy would have been less. Right now I don't have a home. I have a place to stay, but so I'm going to cancel the new one. I just don't know if do I continue to pay this policy?
So Mary and Tracy, you can jump in here. But that's so that level of detail, I think it's going to be most likely easiest for us to help you kind of on a one-on-one
Okay.
basis, so we can get into some
fine.
issues. But Tracy, anything you want to answer right off the bat?
No, I think if you do have two active policies, those policies are going to coordinate benefits depending on the policies. But I agree with the commissioner. That's something, feel free to give us a call and we can delve into it much deeper.
That's awesome. All right. Thank you.
All right, folks. We may have lost Vince for a second.
Nope,
I've got. Oh, you're here? Okay, Vince, who's
Yeah.
next?
So let's see. David Shagalia. If you can go ahead and unmute yourself and get yourself on camera so we can hear your question.
Okay. Can you hear me?
We got you, David.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks, Michael. I really appreciate and all of you for doing this. It's great. We were one of the fortunate ones, quote unquote. Our house didn't burn. It was the only one in the neighborhood that did not. So we have a lot of smoke and fire damage. And what I've been having a hard time finding out is the safety of the contents, like the air in the house, the consumables that were left in there, the vitamin bottles, the utensils, that sort of thing, in terms of what is safe to use, what is safe to consume, and is the house air, I mean, can that be tested? Are there any resources or places where we can determine some of those things?
Yeah, David, it's a fantastic question. And Bobby or Tracy or Vince, I don't know that we have any resources specifically up on our website, but David, if we don't, it's something that we can work on of getting those resources, or at least some potential resources, up onto our website. Because you're absolutely right. Those are the right questions to be asking, and it is going to be specific to your home and what happened in your specific home. So it won't be something that we can give you a blanket answer on. But Tracy or Bobby, anything that you want to add in on that point?
Yeah, I would. There are environmental air testing companies out there. I would contact you if you haven't already. Contact your insurance company, make that claim. They will help you identify the items that should be destroyed or not consumed, or I mean, that stuff would be covered under your contents coverage.
Right.
So anything that was damaged or not usable will be covered. So start that claim process, and the company may also hire an expert to come in and test the air quality and make sure that the home is cleaned and free of the smoke, soot, and ash.
I see. Okay. And then there's also the outdoor dust, from all the ash and all the plastics and everything. I mean, is the city going to be going through and giving us a readout on the safety of the air in the area?
David, that's a question that you'll have to ask the city. I don't know the answer to that one as we sit here tonight. But that's a component of that debris removal, right? And that's going to be part of it going forward. Just as a general matter, though, it is going to be for those of you that are in similar situations to David, it's going to be one of the future meetings, and the meetings that we'll have in the very, very near future is going to be specific to smoke, soot, and ash. And just the different things to be thinking about. We'll probably we'll partner with some folks that have some expertise in it, but that's going to be coming too.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next we have Sharanya Prasad. If you can unmute yourself and put yourself on camera so we can hear your question.
Yes, thank you so much for doing this. This is super helpful and I really appreciate it. So my family and I, we used to live on Canary Lane in the downtown Superior neighborhood, and we lost our home, unfortunately. So in this case of a total loss, my question is regarding the dwelling payouts that are made to the bank and us, as I understand it. And could you speak to that? Could you speak to how that happens? And would you be able to use some numbers? For example, like if the dwelling upper limit on our policy is say 400,000 and our home loan was say for 500,000, then how does the insurance company determine the value? What payment is made out to the bank, and will we owe any extra payments to the bank, or is it fully taken care of? That's basically my question.
Yeah, sure, Anya. So they're obviously extremely valid questions, and we actually we have a tip sheet up on our website that kind of starts to touch on those issues, and that kind of general tip sheet is what we've used to build out the presentation tonight. We didn't get into that level of detail, though, and we didn't pull that level of detail. But Tracy or Bobby, anything that you want to kind of walk through on that front that might be helpful for Shania?
Right. So this is Tracy. So the bank has a financial interest in the home, as you do. So they will be listed on the payment on the checks. It's really important to stay in communication with the banks. They will have maybe their own process, their own risk management section of the bank. They will, again, we don't regulate them, but what we know is that they'll release funds as the repairs continue, as the repairs are completed or through the process. So it's really going to be up to the bank and their process to issue those payments, to release those payments. So I think if I could give one piece of advice is just open those communication lines with them. See if you can find one contact person that will be able to assist you through the process and explain it to you. But because we don't regulate them, that's a little bit challenging for us.
Okay, and maybe could you speak to a general scenario where the amount that's owed to the bank does not satisfy the loan, and is there a possibility that we would actually owe money to the bank?
Sure, Anya, it's really tough for us to kind of talk through hypotheticals like that, simply because there's so many different moving parts, and if we gave you an answer on a general hypothetical like that, in a specific scenario, it very well may not be be the correct answer. So if if you have a situation, if there's something like that that you're worried about with your specific situation, please reach out to us and we can try and work through those issues with you.
Okay, no, thank you so much.
Thank you, Sharanya.
All right, Scott Hafer, if you're going to mute yourself and turn your camera on so we can hear your question.
And Scott, just before you jump in, just real quick. So folks, we've only got about 7 minutes left until our official stop time, but we're going to stay with you. We've got another, I think I just saw the number, but now it's disappeared. Another 25 folks or so that have their hands raised. We're going to get through your questions tonight. But if you all have to drop off, because I know we were only scheduled till 7 o'clock, please know you can reach out to us separately, but there's going to be more opportunities. We're going to be with you. We're going to be with you for the long haul. So please know that. But Scott, we'll kick it to you, sir. But you went back on mute, Scott. Sorry, buddy.
There
you go. Oh, maybe not.
There you go, Scott.
Okay, I have kind of a unique situation where I recently paid to have all of the windows in my house replaced. I was in the process of refinancing my house to pay for the windows. The financing initially for the windows were not through either the window company or any kind of HELOC. I now have lost my house, I've lost my new windows, and I have this unsecured personal loan. And I don't know if I'm the only person in the situation, but like, are there any rights, anyone that I should speak to about this? Like, what do I do in this situation where I'm already fairly confident I'm underinsured, and now I have a significant chunk of the dwelling is now owed to another debt?
Yeah. So Scott, as a general rule, when we get into that level of specificity, I think it's going to be most helpful for us to just talk through issues on a one-on-one basis. But Tracy or Bobby, any kind of general advice that you want to throw out there for folks that might find themselves in similar situations to what Scott's got going on?
Sure, this is Tracy. Hi, Scott. I think one of the things I could say, we can roll this into the importance of reading the estimate. So when you do get the estimate from the company, make sure that those new windows are listed, right? You want to make sure that you're getting the full value of those windows. Honestly, that's about all I can say at this point. The loan you have with the window company or wherever you got them, it still stands. But you want to make sure that you're being compensated. You're getting the full value of the windows. And again, as the commissioner said, feel free to give us a call. We can dig in a little further.
Okay, thank you.
And Scott, start that process with FEMA too. So get registered with FEMA so that as you're working through, if it does turn out that you're underinsured, you've at least started that process too.
FEMA denied me immediately because I have insurance.
Bobby, jump in here, because that's not that wasn't my understanding of the conversations that you had.
Yeah, the person I spoke to today said that you may be denied initially, but once you get through the process and you get the insurance estimate, and the estimate shows that you're underinsured, then you can reach back out to them, and then they will look at it again and possibly reconsider. So you may get a denial up front, but that's because you have the insurance, and then they'll need the insurance documentation to follow up.
Okay.
Thanks, Scott.
Yep, thank you.
All right, let's see. Rob Kurzinski, if you can unmute yourself and ask your question and share your camera.
Sure, I think I'm unmuted.
We got you, Rob.
Oh, there it goes. Okay, yeah, thanks for holding this meeting and discussion. It's very helpful. So we've got two questions. The first is, we want to go through the debris in our house because there's some items that we're looking for that we think might have survived down in the debris. And the question is, I guess, about hazardous materials. We're not quite, looking at the house, it seems to be the rubble. It seems to be primarily drywall, but we're not sure if there's issues with some kind of, I don't know, asbestos or something in these houses that were built, mid 90s. So anyway, that's the first question. The second question is, as we go to rebuild, are we going to run into any HOA type of issues. I don't know if you guys can answer that, but we're just, not sure what, freedom we have versus issues we're going to run into the HOA trying to, I don't know, doing something that maybe is not what we want, and trying to limit what we're trying to do.
Yep, Rob, on the first part, the first question that you had, at the base level of advice that we can give you is that it's going to be really important for you to follow the advice of the authorities on kind of the safety components of when it may or may not be okay, or when it will be okay for you to go in and kind of sift through the debris and see what's there. And they'll be able to offer you, I think, some better advice than we can about the safety of doing that. As far as the HOA components, Tracy or Bobby, on total losses, that's going to be, I would imagine, driven by the HOA contract, but you've got experience on that front, so I'll kick it to you.
Yeah, this is Tracy. Absolutely. You have a contract or a covenant with the HOA, so they may indeed have some influence on that. We don't regulate the HOAs, so we wouldn't be able to help you there. But I think just as you should take a good look at your policy, you should also take a good look at that covenant, make sure they're not overstepping.
Okay.
Thanks, Rob.
Okay, thanks.
So next, I think we've got Rami. And Rami, I don't want to mispronounce your last name too terribly, so we'll just kick it to you and you can tell me how I should have pronounced your last name.
Bonet.
Bonet, Rami.
Yeah. So my question is on ALE. If I have a rental property and the renter of this contract lives and I move into it, can I charge the insurance company ALE for loss of income, rent income?
It's a good question, Rami. Tracy, or Bobby?
Yes. So this is Tracy. So I think that the primary thing to keep in mind here is you can't profit from a claim, right? So, but it sounds like you wouldn't be. It sounds like you would be renting from yourself. So if I was to handle this issue, that's the case that I would make. I would say I'm not getting any rental, so I'm not profiting there, but I am entitled to ALE. So it may be a little tricky to convince an adjuster on that, but it is something that we would definitely try to help you with. So I see that as a valid ALE claim.
And I have another question. Is it beneficial to get a lawyer from the experience you have?
So Rami, I think that it's one of those questions that we can't give you advice on, whether you should go out and seek legal advice. What I can tell you is that, like what I said at the front end, I think there is value of trying to work through issues with your insurance company at the front end, so that you're not paying somebody else funds that you would be able to actually help rebuild your life. But if it gets to the point where you feel like you don't have any other direction to go other than to get an attorney, then you shouldn't hesitate to do that. And that's absolutely something that would be available to you going forward.
And last question, if my property was burned to the ground, including everything inside it, do I need to still pay monthly payments to the insurer? Because I have nothing to insure anymore. It's gone.
Tracy, I know that the common sense answer to that question, but I'm going to kick it to you to make sure that I'm getting the right answer.
Yeah, so you want to keep the policy because there's the liability portion of the policy. So if anyone gets injured on your home property, then you want the coverage there. And this does come up a lot, but I think that the policy staying in force is something that usually happens. I mean, I think that if you could get a policy, maybe that only had liability, maybe you would think about it, but I'm not sure there would be one out there. So I think protecting yourself is important. So.
See, Rami, that's why Tracy gave the answer and I didn't. All right, Rami, thank you very much for your questions.
Okay. Bryce Bjork, if you can unmute yourself and share your screen.
Yeah, hold on one second. Video. Okay. So I have two questions. First question is about the foundation. So my understanding is that most of the insurance companies do not cover a destroyed foundation on the house. And I'm just wondering how likely is that for a lot of the properties in the El Dorado Lane, like the McCaslin via Appia area? And is there going to be some help for people if the foundation is damaged and that isn't something that is covered by the insurance companies?
So Bryce, we won't be able to tell you if it's likely for any particular part of the disaster, like the Bryce Lane. But Tracy or Bobby, any thoughts on the foundation questions themselves?
Yeah, this is Tracy. So I think you're thinking about, usually foundations are not covered because earth movement is excluded, but this is a fire, so it's different. So the foundation was damaged through the fire. So rebuilding the foundation should be covered in the policy.
Okay, I'll have to talk to my insurance agent again, because it seemed like when I was talking to them, they were saying that the foundation would not be covered.
Yeah, that's a standard exclusion. So I think that's just a common answer, because again, earth movement.
I
So
see.
if you have cracks in your foundation from the earth moving, it's not going to be covered. But a fire is a different type of claim, because it's
Okay.
from the bottom all the way to the top. So
Yeah.
I have never seen a foundation be excluded from a fire loss.
Okay, perfect. And then my second question is for living expenses. In terms of, my understanding is that kind of my max that I should be able to get per month is like a fair rental value of the house that burnt down, or like something comparable, basically. And I'm wondering, is it necessary that I provide a lease that I sign like to a property showing that I do actually have that rental, or should I just be able to get that money per month, kind of like regardless of what lease I sign?
I'll just keep talking. This is Tracy. So your policy actually says that those expenses have to be incurred. So it's really going to be how the company decides to handle it. I think if there's a lease, then it'll just go on automatic pilot, where they'll just issue those payments monthly. I think it's a little different when it's not on a lease, that the company may take a tighter rein on it. But again, we've seen some companies set precedents in different type of fire losses. So it'd be interesting to help you out individually, depending on what they say, right? So if you gave them a lease that was for 6 months, would the company issue you 6 months in advance? It depends what the company has done in the past. But keep in mind that the policy itself does state that those have to be incurred. But the policy doesn't say you need a lease, right? So if they they can't absolutely require you to have a lease, but you have to incur them.
So thanks, Bryce. Vince, who do we got next?
Let's see. We have Hales Oremuno. If you can unmute yourself and put yourself on camera so we can hear your question.
Hi, yes, thank you for doing this. My question is, what if the policy coverage is less than the current assessed value found in the assessor's office for Boulder? I'm curious if that's at play while working with the adjuster.
So House, that's gonna come into those kind of underinsurance type part of the conversations, answers that we've walked through before. But Tracy, anything or Bobby specific about the assessor component of Hale's question?
I think this is Tracy. I think that they might include land, and the policy doesn't include land, but I'm not sure. And again, what the policy will pay is what's on the declarations page up to the limit. It wouldn't matter if the assessment came in higher, unfortunately.
Thank you, sir.
All right, next, Anura Mathis. If you can unmute yourself and share your camera so we can hear your question.
Hi. I don't know if you can see me. Oh, you can't see me because I have tape. That's fine. Hi.
There you go.
I'm in Superior, and I did not have any fire damage, but I'm more concerned about water because of the notices that were given out about boiling the water. If now that it's returned, if it's safe to use, If there's any way for us to test it or what, I'm really concerned about the water.
Yeah, Nora, so the best resource for you on those types of questions is going to be the city itself. I don't want to tell you something that ends up being incorrect. I don't know, Tracy or Bobby, are there any resources that an insurance company would provide to test as part of a recovery like this? I don't think there are, but figure might as well throw that part of the question out there.
No, this is great. I'm sorry, Bobby. I think that it might contribute to potentially not being able to live in your home, but that would be my only thought.
Okay.
Yeah, really rely on the city. Talk with the city. They'll be able to be your best resource on those questions.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Penny Zemp, if you can unmute yourself and share your camera, please.
Hey, everybody. Can you guys hear me okay?
We got you.
So, hi, I'm Patrick. I'm not Penny. I'm Penny's husband. The question I have is, what if you're in doubt if you actually have a claim or not? So primarily that's for items in the home that could have possible smoke damage that aren't visible. So things like your sofas and your mattresses, if you can't see anything, but there might be some contaminants inside those, I don't know if it's in doubt, file a claim, but what are the best steps in order to take for that?
Yeah, Patrick, I think that's an excellent question, and it's one that that we dealt with, or the division dealt with. I was actually at the AG's office when the division was dealing with those types of questions back during the Waldo fire. Tracy or Bobby, you want to jump in and give any advice on those issues?
I mean, I would suggest filing a claim. I would get the adjuster out there. I would, you're going to know when you're in the home for a period of time, if you can smell it, or, it may be a week, it may be 2 weeks and your electronics will quit working. There's possibly going to be some ash and soot and smoke issues that you may not realize immediately, but I would get an adjuster out there to look at it.
Thank you, Patrick.
All right. Scott Meow, if you can unmute yourself and put your camera on so we can hear your question.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
We got you, Scott.
Great. Hey, thank you, Michael and Tracy. Thank you for guys doing this. It's a great information to be shared. So I have a question related to some of the debris brief, specifically on the concrete structures. How do I know the concrete structure is still safe to use for the future rebuild? And then if something can be determined, if I know this concrete cannot be used, does the debris remove including those concrete or not? So that's kind of the two questions I have.
Yeah, Scott. So the kind of the nitty gritty detail of the debris removal in specific situations like that, I think we're going to have to work through them on a case by case basis.
Okay.
That's one of those issues that we have, that I know that other states do have experience with. That just through some base level conversations that I've had with our counterparts, that we're going to try and learn from. But as far as the safety component is concerned, that's really going to be something where I think contractors and people that are really experts in the building world will be able to answer those questions for you. It won't necessarily be anything that we can help you with. But is there anything, Tracy or Bobby, besides the debris removal component of things, anything that on the insurance side that we think we can share with Scott?
This is Tracy. If there's a question of structural integrity, the insurance company should send a structural engineer out. They're not going to want to have you rebuild a home on top of a foundation that's not safe. So if you have concerns, bring that up. Make sure that they see it. In most total loss fires, they're pulling out that foundation.
I got you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott. So whoever put the heart on the screen just now, I don't know who it was, but it's very appreciated. All right. Where do we go next?
Judy Lynn Schmidt, if you can unmute yourself and share your camera, please.
Judy, we can't hear you. Looks like you're still on mute.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep, we got you.
Okay, I have a few questions. You know, one of my biggest problems with all this is I know people who worked on that fire. I have someone who has pictures from across the road. It started at 10:30. I had no notice. I lost my cat. I lost my house of over 20 years. Why? Who's responsible? Why did we not, from the city of Boulder, from the dispatchers, get a reverse call with 100-mile-hour winds and a burning fire 4 miles from my house? Why no notice? And who is investigating that? That is my primary question.
Yeah, Judy, is it Judy or is it Judy Lynn?
It's Judy Lynn, and Judy Lynn is just flabbergasted. I just can't believe why they dropped the ball on all of us.
Yeah, so Judy
No
Lynn,
excuse.
I'm really sorry about the loss of your cat and the loss of your home. As I talked about at the front end of this, I can't tell you how much empathy that I've got for you all that are working through everything. As far as the reverse 911 calls and those issues that we just don't have answers for you on those issues tonight.
The firemen were there. They knew. They even pointed out to the back. I happen to know somebody who knows the fireman because it's his son. They pointed it out to the chief that it was backing up to the grasslands. Nothing was communicated to us.
Gotcha.
This is unbelievable. And I have a friend who's got a picture at 10:30 of that fire. I had one at 12 with a puff of smoke, but by 12:15, I was running for my life.
I know, ma'am. I know it was an
unbelievable.
I know it was an incredibly
And who do we
scary, but-
report this to, and who do we communicate that to? And
So-
is there any class action about this? Seriously.
Yeah, ma'am. So what I can tell you is that I'd be happy to talk with you through kind of all those issues offline. I'll shoot you a message right now so you've got my cell phone in the chat here, and we can have some conversations about it. We don't.
Okay, I have other questions too, but I just think from all of us, we really need an answer on that. That's unbelievable.
I
We're
understand.
going to lose everything. So I have a couple questions. Do we have to keep paying on our mortgages until we get rebuilt?
Yeah, so Tracy, it's a common question, or Bobby, it's a common question that I know we get. You want to jump in on that one?
Yes, you'll want to keep paying. You'll want to keep paying your mortgage. If you choose not to rebuild, you may use the proceeds to pay off the mortgage, but your money will be the money that the insurance company gives you will actually it'll be issued to the mortgage company as well as to yourself, and then they'll disperse the funds as you go through the rebuild process.
Well, except I have a reverse mortgage. So I don't know how that works.
Yeah, you need to talk to the mortgage company, or I'm not really sure how those work either.
And then are we also responsible for property taxes when we don't really have property?
Man, I think that'll be a question, ma'am, that I would encourage you to work through with the city so that we're not giving you any incorrect information on that front.
Right. And then with FEMA, I live with a significant other. Do I need to list him, or are we just as me because I'm the only one on the home? And on the insurance.
Right. On the FEMA side of things, Bobby, I doubt you've gotten into that level of detail on questions with FEMA, have you?
No, I have not. I would reach out and talk to FEMA about that. They will provide you assistance as you're completing the application. If you go into the DRC, the recovery center where FEMA is located, they have a lot of people there helping consumers like you. And I'm really sorry for your losses.
And all of us. I mean, it is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to get angry, but I just can't even believe we weren't warned. That I had one little tiny notice, I don't know where it came from, that there was a small grass fire. Which it was not. There were already structures burning. So there was miscommunication. That's amazing. And I think everyone should know that. That should be noted. and maybe documented. Yeah, it's just, and also with debris removal, when you say debris removal, is there some point we can go through and sift through things that might have survived, or is that debris removal, or what does that mean?
Yeah, Judy Lynn, have you been to the Assistance Center yet?
No, but my section is closed off, so we have no idea. There's nothing there.
So there's a lot of information at the Assistance Center, and I know that there's I'm not sure who's giving them away, but they are giving away like sifting boxes to help people go through the anything that might have survived, go through the fire and find anything that survived it. I would recommend going to the Assistance Center. There's a lot of resources there.
All right, thank you. Sorry I'm angry, but this is a lot to process.
I know, ma'am. I know it's a lot.
It's unbelievable.
I know it's a lot to process.
That wording, Sagamore had 0. It's amazing we survived.
I know it's a ton to process, ma'am, and I understand that you're angry. I really do.
I'm frustrated.
I get your frustration, right? And I'm going to shoot you my email address in the chat, and reach out, and we'll find a time to chat.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we've got Mandip Gill. If you could unmute yourself and turn on your camera, sir.
Hey everyone, can you see me?
We got you.
Yeah, we got
you. All right, I have 3 comments that I hope is not out of place for me to say, and then I have 2 questions. So the first one was actually related to one of the comments from one of the questions someone else asked about FEMA. I had to list all the people in the house when I put in my FEMA claim that also got denied right away. So maybe that helps you. Secondly, I noticed that there's a category when you're filing your claim called catastrophic event. Make sure that you're selecting that if you haven't filled it out yet, because I didn't have that on mine, and that caused like 5 days of unnecessary waiting for an adjuster because my claim wasn't prioritized because whoever put in my claim just didn't seem to think it was a catastrophic event, losing my entire house. And then the third thing is, I know this came up earlier, but I talked to my adjuster about the personal property. She did not require me to make a list, and you might have similar experiences, but I think it varies on your insurance company. But I would say that some insurance companies might be more sympathetic to it than others. So those are my 3 comments that I hope aren't out of place. I have 2 questions. The first question is, someone asked the question, do we still have to pay our mortgage? My question is there any programs to delay mortgage payment, right? By like 3 months, 6 months, or whatever. Is there any programs at the state level, federal level that you could speak to? And then the second question, and this is also something that came up that I didn't really hear the answer to because I was a little bit confused. And it's regarding the assisted living expenses, the ALE. My policy lists that for 12 months, they'll pay with no monetary limit. And then if required after 12 months, for additional living expenses, there's a 66, whatever there's a maximum. So when you mentioned that you for the, was it Weld County or Granby or something, I can't remember exactly, where you extended the ALE, does that mean that we're still held to that limit? Or does that mean that there is still no monetary limit if you extend it by 1 year, 2 years, 3 years? Do we have to worry about a maximum number? So hopefully that made sense. And those are my 2 questions.
Yeah. So Amanda, on the inventory piece, you're absolutely right that the companies are going to handle the inventory, historically at least, they've handled inventories differently. And some companies have just waived outright the requirement for inventories. And like I talked about before, in specific situations, the states have been able to get the companies at large to waive inventories, and that'll definitely be part of the conversations that we're having with the companies going forward. From the perspective of the ALE component of things, you're you kind of, at least to some degree, hit the nail on the head that every policy, everybody's policies are going to be different with ALE coverage too. So you've got coverage for a year with no limit. That may not be the case for everybody. Their specific policy very well may be different. What we did on the emergency with the emergency regulation was to extend the time frame for some ALE benefits, but that's going to be a piece that we walk through as we go forward in a little bit more detail once we actually get that emergency regulation finalized and actually adopted. It's not quite adopted yet. It's something that, like I said before, that we're hoping that we can do in the next 24 hours or so. But Bobby or Tracy, anything you want to add in on that front?
This is Tracy. I want to thank you for your initial comments. I think they're great to reach out and help fellow survivors with experiences. And so I just wanted to thank you for that. I don't have anything to add to the question.
Thanks, Mandip.
Okay, I just wanted to follow up because I still just a little bit confused until it makes sense to me. I know it's gonna still be on my mind. When we extend the ALE, are we still, does that mean that like we'll still get assistance, or will the insurance company say, nope, you've reached your maximum, even if you extend it by a year, you've already gone past your limit? That, I guess that's what I'm like wondering, will people be in that situation? And then is extending the ALE just kind of pointless if you've already gone over the amount that they allocated in section D of your coverage that, you know, are standard 4 sections?
Yep, and Mandip, on in the emergency regulation, and Bobby and Tracy, correct me if I'm wrong here, but we didn't increase any policy limits. We increased the time frame for folks to actually be able to use those benefits, but we didn't go down the path of changing policy benefits. Bobby or Tracy, am I wrong about that piece?
No, yeah, I'm sorry, Tracy. Yeah, so Amanda, it's by its timeframes. It's not there shouldn't be any actual policy limits other than the time. So if your 12 months is extended to 24 months, it's up to 24 months, the time that you need to rebuild, and up to 12 months. But there's no dollar limit on those, and that's in statute, that there's no dollar limit. It is time limit.
Okay. So there's some statutory regulations that I think we need to educate ourselves on, because some of these policies might not take into consideration those statutory situations. Is there a good place to go look that up in an easy, consumable way?
You can call. I would call our office, and yes, I mean there are statutes. I don't want to necessarily rattle off all the statutes here, but you're welcome to call our office, and we can walk you through the statute and through the regulations.
Okay. Thank
you. We do have information on our website as well.
Yeah, it's hard to consume, as you could imagine, a lot of reading, going through your policy. If there's resources that makes it easier to understand, and maybe that could be a topic for a town hall about the statutes that for Colorado specifically, because I think my policy is written in a very generic way, and it might not take into consideration things like there should be no limit on whatever the ALE is for the duration or something like that. So it would be very helpful to know that, like, once we read our policy, what about Colorado protects us, and knowing those details in an easily consumable way, so we have that power when we're talking with our agents.
Yep. No, Amanda, I think that's a great idea, and it's something that we will definitely put in the list of town hall meetings to walk through, and to kind of do that tutorial about the more detailed level of statutory protections and regulatory protections, for that matter, that are out there.
I appreciate you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Amanda.
All right. Rob Scott, you're up.
Awesome. Hi, guys. You can see me. We lost our house 30 years. My question is, and Michael, this is not your purvey, but I want this to be on the record. What's being done to hold those accountable, starting the fire in Marshall, to hold them financially accountable for reimbursement for all of us? And it's a large group. They have deep pockets, and I sure hope Governor Polis pursues every possible means to get all of us some retribution and some help from this. I mean, that's unbelievable what we've all been through. Unbelievable. And through no fault of our own. We're just living our lives. And we got these people starting fires in Marshall that blow through this thing. We need to hold these people accountable. And I hope that something's being done. Michael, I know you don't have an answer for that, but I appreciate you holding this tonight. And we look forward to more of these town halls. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, Rob. And you're right that I don't have concrete answers to your points. What the Gov has said and what the authorities have said is that the fire is still under investigation, and they're gonna take that investigation wherever it goes. And the governor has said very, very publicly that he expects anybody that's responsible to be held accountable. And I think that if you know this governor, you know that he follows through on things like that. So more to come, I think, more than anything else, Rob, on where the investigation goes and what ultimately is found.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for holding these tonight. And I look forward to more of them. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rob.
All right, next we have Zhongming Chen. If you can unmute yourself, put yourself on camera so we can hear your question.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you guys for doing this. This is really helpful. I have a question is that, I'm the lucky guys, one of the lucky guys, right? Our home's fine. But not too far away from our house, there's burning houses, and we kind of a little worried about it, want to do some checking. But, like the previous people say that we probably want to go through our, you guys being pointed out, we should go through our file a claim, have an insurance company send some expert take a look at it. But my concern is that, our damage might be small enough, right? Will the insurance company, by virtual way file the claim, penalize, typically they'll raise our premium quite a bit if we file a claim. And so, are there any regulations that might help for this disaster situation that they will not penalty us, that could give us penalty on this?
Yes, thank you for the question. I think it's an excellent one. Tracy or Bobby, you want to jump in and help Zhongming kind of think through that question?
Yeah, hi, it's Tracy. So I think you know your home best of all. So you can pick up if you believe there's anything wrong. If you're concerned about filing a claim, and that's a very valid concern to have. We often will say, compare the benefits of filing a claim to the actual out-of-pocket. I don't know, maybe your county is offering some services to come in and check the air quality or things like that you can take advantage of. I think in your situation, if that was me, that's probably what the route I would go, is to try to find some non-insurance professionals to maybe see if there is something there to worry about. And then at least you'll know, and you'll have a better, you'll have some information to make that decision.
And this is Bobby. And actually, I had somebody chat me offline about my previous response to a smoke damage, and was suggested that maybe you contact the fire department. She had indicated that she'd had the fire department come out to her house, and they were very helpful. So you may want to, are you in Louisville or Superior, but you may want to check with the Boulder County Fire Department to see if they would come out and do some testing for you.
Okay, so fire department and possibly the county.
Right.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Next, Michelle Meng, if you can unmute yourself and share your camera, please.
Okay, hi, thank you. Thanks for staying late. I had two hopefully quick questions. I'm a renter in the area, and my house had a lot of smoke damage, but other than that was fine. It's definitely not livable now, but I was wondering if you can talk to how insurance companies determine that your house is, becomes livable after repairs are completed. And when I guess for renters, it might be called loss of use coverage ends. So that's my first question. And the second question is, for those of us who have decent insurance coverage, but very high deductibles, if there are any resources out there to help with that.
Yeah, Michelle, thank you very much for those questions, because I think they're directly applicable to a lot of situations that a lot of folks have been going on. Bobby, do you want to talk through probably both answers, but in particular, what's out at the DAC for the second question that you had on just kind of assistance?
Yeah, I mean, I think you could apply with FEMA. Again, they are offering individual assistance. We can't guarantee approval of that, but I would start with FEMA. There are other, if you haven't been at the DAC yet, there are other resources out there. I know there's some victims assistance from Boulder County and other things. So I don't know if they might be handing out vouchers, things that might help you with some of those extra costs, but I would check some of those resources there. As far as the smoke damage, so you're renting the property, so the landlord or your property management company should be working with the company that insures that home to get the smoke and the soot ash repairs made, for lack of a better term, but to clean the property. And so that's but obviously your personal property is also going to be you suffer damage from that as well. So then work with your insurance company to evaluate the methods of making you whole. I mean, is it washing your clothing, your mattresses and those type of items? You may not be able to clean them. So it's just a matter of working with your insurance company on those items to get them cleaned.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Michelle.
Or replaced. So
yeah. Okay, thank you so much.
All right. Next, Kunal Singh, if you can unmute yourself and share your camera, please.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for doing this. And I have a list of questions, but I'm really trying to figure out how I can summarize them, being mindful of everybody's time. They're all sort of linked regarding the timelines. The debris removal hasn't started yet. The debris removal, when that ends, is when, the first step towards rebuilding, our home. The first thing we'll need is to get some kind of permits. How soon can we get the permits? After we apply, and that's a question for the city. But the reason why I feel the insurance companies need to address this is the longer it takes for us to build the home, the quicker we'll run out of money for our rent. The longer it takes for us to get the permit and so forth. The longer it takes for us to get the permit or to start rebuilding the home, the more cost escalation will happen, just the way it's been happening for the last 2 years for building materials and all those sort of things. So even if the insurance company may approve a certain amount to rebuild our home, how can we ensure that by the time we actually start to rebuild, it'll be enough to rebuild our home? And the third question is regarding mortgage. I know in California, they allowed a mortgage forbearance, for up to 12 months or even 24 months, if I'm not wrong, where, people didn't have to make any payments for the mortgage until the home was completed again. How they worked it out, I have no idea. But if, somebody can speak for that. The questions go on and on, but it's really the timeliness of, how can we ensure to get, 1,000 homes rebuilt if everybody decides to rebuild within a matter of, 2 years? Seems like, all the policies are going to expire, the limits and so forth within 2 years. It's just a really nerve-wracking thing to think about constantly.
Yeah, Kunal. So the piece of that I can directly, or that we can directly answer, is really related to the insurance component of it and those additional living expenses and or the timelines to get the rebuild done. As far as the permits are concerned, you did hit the nail on the head on that point, that it's going to be the city and working through the city to kind of answer those questions related to how quickly they'll be able to turn around permits for everybody for all of the rebuilds that are going to be going on. But the time frame to actually rebuild the home that's in your policy, those are the components that we're going to be working with the insurance companies to make sure that you all have a sufficient amount of time to actually get the rebuilds done. The cost side of things that really touches into those questions, and whether when we get to the point where you're rebuilding your home, it very well could be the case that the supply chain issues have gotten better, and it may be the case that inflation has gotten better as well, depending on which economist that you read. That very well could be in play. So it's just going to be a product of working through that claim process, Kunal. And I know that's a frustrating answer, but what we can also tell you is that if it is the case that at the end of the day that you are underinsured, which I think is kind of underlying the concern that's really underlying a lot of your questions, once we get to the point of rebuilding, or once you get to the point of rebuilding, that is where that FEMA assistance potentially at least might come into play. So I would direct you in that direction as well. Bobby or Tracy, anything else you think that we can add in there that I left out?
This is Tracy. That I picked up a little bit about, if the company is delaying, then again, you have an advocate and the commissioner and the division. So if it is a delay on the company's part, there's no doubt that we would go after an extension.
I've lost home in the past, and that's the reason why I'm very concerned this time around. If it took us almost a year and a bit just to get the final amount approved by the insurance company for the rebuild of our home. And by then we had already lost that 1 year. It just wasn't enough time for us to rebuild within 8 months after that. So what I'm hoping for, and I completely understand and appreciate, nobody really has a crystal ball of where the costs are going to be 12 months down the road. But the sooner I can get at least some kind of an estimate from the insurance company, the sooner I can reach out to contractors and hopefully ask them for a fixed price contract with all the finishes that I anticipate having in my house. So at least I can have surety within reason of what it's going to cost to rebuild my home. But if it takes me a year just to get a proper rebuild estimate, understanding that there is cost escalation due to inflation, if it takes me a year and back and forth with the insurance company, then we're always going to be behind the ball. Like we're not. I'm really worried about that part. How soon can we expect, insurance company approving some kind of a rebuild quote for us so that we know what money we have available to us to rebuild our home?
Yeah, go for it, Tracy. Or what was up?
Yeah, this is Tracy. So you're absolutely right. It all is going to be contingent on getting that estimate from the insurance company. That's the first step, right? You need that estimate. We would expect that sooner rather than later. So it sounds like you will stay on top of it. Keep on top of it. Get an adjuster out there as soon as possible. If you have any documentation that you can give them that will help them to write an accurate estimate the first time, such as blueprints or anything else that you may have, get it to them, even if it's photographs, so that you can try to help them to have an accurate estimate the first time. But you're right, there is some back and forth between a contractor and the company to get an agreed upon estimate. It sounds like you've been through this before, so you kind of had an understanding. I would just say, don't let time go by. Stay on top of both the company and the contractor who you ultimately sign a contract with.
Thanks, Bob. Or thanks, Tracy. All right.
All right. Chris Romery, if you can unmute yourself and turn your camera on.
Have voice but not camera. I have a question. Thank you for the session. I really appreciate it. What's the best way to stay on top of future questions? It seems like there are a lot of things that still haven't been decided and need to be finalized and figured out. And how can we stay on top of all those developments as they come across?
Yeah, Chris. So, One, we're gonna continue to have these town hall meetings where we'll update you on a lot of the information that we just don't have complete answers to tonight. So you can sign up for our listserv, and we can get that info onto our website. That info is on our website where it's easy to sign up for the listserv. But we'll specifically we've got a specific web page for these fires. And we'll link that, the ability to sign up for that listserv onto that webpage, so you're getting all of the notifications related to this. Anything else, Vince, that you think we should add in on that point?
United Policyholders, they have great webinars too. So, and then the recovery centers, if that's what you're trying to keep up on, what's the developments are. Those are the two resources I would suggest.
And on the United Policyholder front, folks, they are having a webinar on Sunday. I think I mentioned that before, but just in case I didn't, I want to make sure that I did highlight that. I think I saw that in the chat earlier too. But we'll put that up onto our website as well, so folks have an easy place to go to find where their information related to their webinars. Rep Amable is going to be at that. I'm fairly certain she's going to be at that. But if she isn't, then it's my fault. I don't want to overpromise for her. And I think that, but United Policyholders, just as a general matter, is going to be a really good resource for everybody.
Great. All right. Nate Carey, if you're going to mute yourself and ask your question, please.
Yeah. Can you see me okay?
Yeah.
Right.
Gotcha.
Thanks for holding this. It's been very good. So I have another call I need to mute. My question is just that my home is damaged with smoke and some soot, and I know you have another call coming up on that topic, but the question I have is just around the judgment of whether a home is habitable. And apologies if this is a repeat question. I had to step away for a little bit. You know, there's smoke that came through. There's not smoke now. There's soot that's come through near the windows and doors. And we don't feel comfortable being in the home, but I don't know who, at the insurance company is making the judgment, and is it at the advice of a doctor, or if there's a disagreement on whether it's habitable, any kind of advice you can give us. We don't plan to be in the home, but I don't know if I should expect debate on this topic. So any kind of general advice you can provide would be great.
Yeah, Nate, those are all obviously very legitimate concerns and legitimate thoughts to be working through. Tracy or Bobby, you want to jump in on just kind of general advice that we've got based on past experience on those types of issues?
Yeah, I mean, I would start with contacting your insurance company. If you're not comfortable in the home, then don't be there. I mean, the smoke and soot, there can be some toxic chemicals in there. So I would start with your insurance company, start the conversations, have them come out and inspect it, and have those conversations about what, about cleaning or, replacing items that need to be replaced. We did issue a bulletin today that talks about our expectations with regard to the smoke, soot, and ash. And what we expect the companies to do. So I think in the past we've had there had been some challenges, but I think there's lessons learned in every one of these fires. And so I just would encourage you to talk to your company.
Okay,
yeah,
thanks.
And Nate, just to reinforce that, that's one of the first issues that we started to work through with the companies, along with the inventory components that we talked about earlier, that and just to reinforce what Bobby said, it's been a challenge in the past, but what we've really driven home, or at least what we plan to, what we've already started to drive home with the companies, and what we'll continue to do, is our expectation that we don't run into the same problems that we've run into in the past with smoke, soot, and ash claims. We're going to have to work through them. They're challenging claims. They're challenging claims for a whole host of different reasons, but I think you're going to see that the insurance companies have a commitment to making sure that we don't run into those same issues that we've run into in the past.
Okay. No, thanks. Appreciate that. And just, my heart goes out to everybody on the call who's been impacted.
Me too, Nate. Thank you.
Commissioner, would you mind just mentioning, as Bobby brought it up, what a bulletin is exactly? I'm going to go ahead and put a link to that in the chat.
Sure. So, folks, that's a good flag, Vince. A bulletin is effectively when we issue guidance to the insurance industry. Typically, we issue bulletins specific to lines of insurance. For this bulletin, we issued it was specific to homeowners insurance and issues that you all are dealing with, and a lot of the issues that we talked through tonight. So Vince has linked that in the chat. That's going to be, so when I talked earlier about the different kind of components, the regulations or statutes or bulletins that are out there to help protect consumers, that we'll have a specific town hall about to walk through and unpack for folks. We'll get into the nitty gritty details of that bulletin too, so you all can understand exactly what it is that we're putting out there for the insurance companies and the guidance that we've got out there.
Thank you, sir. Next up, Jason Grant, if you can unmute yourself and share your camera so we can hear your question.
Sure, and thank you. I just had another question that I forgot to ask earlier. There's a list that was created that I think is important on homes that were lost, and I think we saw it on the sheriff's website, maybe, that, and it seems to be relevant for insurance. And for whatever reason, our home is not on that list, and our home is definitively gone. And I'm just not sure. Do you know if there's some way or who the right person is to address making adjustments to that centralized list of homes that were lost?
Jason, I don't, but I can look into it. We can circle back to you. I would reach out to the sheriff's office. But regardless, as far as your insurance claim is concerned, to your point, your home is gone. So that if you run into any problems with your insurer telling you that your home isn't on that list, let us know right away, and we'll jump into it to tackle it for you.
Jason, did that answer your question? Okay.
Yeah, you did. Thank you very much.
Okay, good deal. Thanks. All right, next, Pamela Poole Quinn, if you could unmute yourself and share your question, please.
I have unmuted myself. I'm not sure about my video because I can't.
No, we can see you.
Oh, good. Okay. Okay. Oh, first, to Nate, Nate Carey, if he's still there. Okay, so I'm in a similar situation. I have damages relatively small compared to people losing their homes. I was in the middle of the burn zone, but my house survived. I did start a claim because I have fences down, I have skylights broken, I have soot, I probably had smoke. And I filed the claim with my insurance company. I was under mandatory evacuation. So this loss of use was activated. Additional living expenses under loss of use says I am covered to stay out of the home until it's safe. And they know about the damages and about the soot and they have approved me to be out of the home until it's remediated. So I don't know if that helps, but I just want to share my experience there. So my question is, so I'm lucky to have my home. I'm displaced because of damage, but I'm pretty green with the insurance process. So I have a general high level question. So I will have the adjuster come out Thursday, but how does the insurance company use the adjuster's evaluation versus the contractor's evaluation versus what I have evaluated? In other words, how do they decide what work needs to be done and how much they will pay? I'm asking because I had the adjuster ask, has the contractor looked at it? The contractor asks, has the adjuster looked at it? And I'm confused a little bit about how these decisions are going to be made about fixing my house.
I know, Pamela, and I understand your confusion, and I understand that it's overwhelming, and there's just a ton going on right now. So as a general rule, Pamela, I think it's going to be most helpful for us if you can reach out to Bobby and Tracy and the team so that they can help you with your specific situation, rather than trying to get into a lot of detail on the group call. But Bobby or Tracy, any kind of initial thoughts that you have?
Yeah, so I think that this is Tracy. So I think that the claim adjuster is probably asking if you have a contractor, just to make things easier, right? If you did already have a contractor, he or she would probably say, hey, why can't we meet there together, right? To try to get any disputes resolved right there. That's my guess as to why he was asking. Most companies use a software program called Xactimate. I think it's pretty widely used. So they put in what the damages are, and it calculates based on the area and the going price. So be aware that that's probably the software that they'll use. I wouldn't be surprised if you heard that word if you were there during the inspection.
And one just quick note that I just got a note on. So Senator Jaquez Lewis is also going to be at the town hall with United Policyholders on Sunday. All right, Vince, who do we have next?
Nirant Pudambankar, if you could please unmute yourself and turn on your camera so we can hear your question.
Yeah, can you hear me?
We got you.
Yeah, great, thanks. So thanks everybody for staying late and taking these questions. So my question was around the underinsurance. So just talking to contractors, the costs in Boulder County has gone up quite a bit. So roughly the rough ballpark is around $300 a square feet to rebuild. Whereas the insurance companies, based on the dwelling coverage, they have calculated at around $200 per square feet. So I'm already 50% underinsured. So my question is, so you guys mentioned that there are FEMA funds to cover the difference. But FEMA, from what I've been reading, are capped. I think there's like a 30K coverage, and also there are income limits on that. So my question was, are there any other options to how do we make up that 50% excess cost to build the house? And is there any way we can ask the insurance companies to recalculate the dwelling coverage based on current costs so that the RCV can be fulfilled? Thank you.
Yeah, Nirant, those are excellent questions. They're excellent concerns. They're similar to some of what we've talked through before. I think it's going to be really important to work the process, work the claim, and see where things end up once you actually get through the total claim. I know that there's lots of conversation happening out there about underinsurance and the cost to rebuild and different estimates that are being shared with folks. What I would encourage you to do, though, is, like I said, to work the process. The FEMA underinsurance component is the best resource that we have for you as we sit here right now. As those conversations kind of evolve, or as the conversations just evolve generally, there may be more resources that come into play, but there's nothing that I can promise you at this point, Nirant. So I think the best advice that we have for you is just to make sure that you're working that claim, working that process, and see where things land. Go through the FEMA side of things, see what they can provide, and then see what else is available at that point. But Tracy or Bobby, any other thoughts on Nirant's questions?
This is Tracy. I feel for you. I think underinsured is going to be a big issue. The insurance companies for the Grant County losses, they were aware that the square footage difference was significant. They somewhat dismissed that. They're looking at an actual estimate. That's what they said they're basing their prices off of. I guess if I could say one thing is, don't leave even $1 on the table. Try to get every single piece of that coverage that is available to you. So that would be it. They're not going to increase the policy limits. So try to get there.
Okay. And in that case, can we ask them to provide a contractor, since they have calculated whatever amount is a valid amount? Can they provide a contractor who can do it for that $200 a square feet? Or
some of them have network providers that will do that. I think in this case with the resources so thin, I'm not sure that they're going to be offering those. But hey, you should ask, right? Say, hey, do you have anyone in your network So that's what they call them, network providers. And if you can use them, sometimes that's a good option because the insurance company takes on portion of the warranty, right? So they assume some of the responsibility of the work getting done. I would be surprised if that's being offered just because of the immense need, and their network is not that large. But I would ask, sure, show me somebody who could do the work for this amount.
Yeah. And again, from what I've read, they're just in a hurry to write you the check, right? So that they don't have to follow through on the process. So yeah, it's going to be a tough negotiation, but thank you all for the advice.
Thank you, Narat.
Yeah.
All right. Annabelle Lamb, if you could unmute yourself and put your camera on so we can hear your question.
Hi, thank you so much for doing this. We really, really appreciate it. So we have a house in the burn zone. We were very, very lucky that it wasn't burned down, but there was damage. Our challenge is that we are actually owners of the house, but we've rented it out to tenants. So I know based on our conversations with the tenants that there's damage to the properties, smoke and all those kind of things. And that, I'm hearing that we need to go through the claim process. What I'm trying to understand is our tenants have already moved back in, and I don't know if that is the right thing to do. But obviously that's our home and we want to respect that. But I'm worried about, we want to get, my understanding is we have to do sort of like an inspection to make sure everything's okay. Is that covered by insurance? Should I be worried about that happening after the tenants have been moved back in? And how does that whole process work? Thank you so much.
Bobby, Tracy, you want to jump into those questions? You'll be able to answer them better than I can.
Yeah, so it's a little complicated, right? Because you have a tenant there, and like you said, you want to respect them, but they also have to respect that you need to get in there to inspect it, right? And if you're not sure of the damage, again, you may want to have someone, not the insurance company, but some other professional come in and assess the damages, because I don't know what your deductible is, but perhaps the damages are less than or somewhat equal to the out of pocket. So that would be it. And it must be a little complicated when there's a tenant there. If they have insurance and you have to do some work to get that place back up and safe, they should be able to file a claim with their renter's insurance and get some alternative living while the repairs are going on.
Okay. Thank you for your help.
All right. Brent Taylor, if you're going to unmute yourself and share your camera, please.
Okay. Can you hear me?
We got you, Brent.
Okay. I wanted to take a moment also to thank you all and thank you for staying late on this. Fortunately, we were not affected by the fire. We've got property in Lafayette and Broomfield that fortunately survived. But listening to all this interaction, I just want to, and if you need to cut me off for some reason, that's okay. I'm not trying to sell anybody anything, but I just wanted to let you know that, in our community, we've decided to create a concerned advocacy, sort of a victims advocacy group. And I represent a group of veterans, retired and former military veterans that have been through many contingency scenarios and also disaster scenarios. And we are looking to support some of these questions that everybody's had during this process with reconstruction questions and stuff like that, pro bono, free of charge. And we would like to be able to provide that information. Do you have any objection to me providing some information about the organization?
So Brent, why don't you and I have a conversation offline so I can get a better understanding of what exactly you all are going to be able to provide. And then at a future town hall, if it makes sense, I'd be happy to have you come on and talk through what information that or what.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll send you a chat with my direct contact information also. So I sent something to Vincent earlier. So.
Great. And Brent, thank you very much for your service, sir. It's greatly appreciated.
Okay. Yeah. And we really, although we survived, we really feel for all the people and the difficulties they have understanding how to go through this process. So we might be able to help with some of that.
No, that's great. I appreciate that, Brent. And I'll reach out to you. The next couple of days are going to be pretty hectic in my world, but I promise you that I'll reach out to you ASAP.
Understood. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Brent. John, you have the esteemed last question, or at least you're the last person with the raised hand. So John, thank you very much for sticking with us. Please, what can we help you with?
Sure. Well, if you can help me learn to push my raised hand button better, because I apparently unpushed it and pushed me to the end of the line.
That's the worst.
At any rate, let's see. I lost my home, which is a bummer. But I think, like many people, I had my insurance on autopilot for a number of years, and we didn't see the rates, what are the multiples keeping up. And so I guess I would strongly like to add another vote that you guys do better legislation with the insurance firms to make sure that they comply or try to get closer with to prevent underinsurance. It seems like that's something that you guys could regulate with the insurance companies, and similar to like what Narat indicated, where you're seeing 50% under. Okay, I can see 5, 10%, 20% under, but 50%, 60, 70% under, it's kind of crazy. So, and then I don't know if you guys are doing anything also to investigate the fault of companies. Like I talked to our insurance company, and they're using this software, VariRisk, that does the analysis. And it's, obviously it's a very faulty algorithm that's going to cost collectively a massive amount of money that I would have been happy to pay the premium, but I just was on autopilot and trusting that the algorithm was working properly, but I was mistaken. So
yeah, I hear you, John. From the vantage point of the underinsurance issues that Tracy talked about this a little bit earlier, I do think that we're going to have challenges on the underinsurance side that we're going to have to work through. And whenever there's challenges, there's always a conversation to have at the legislature about those challenges and see if there's a path forward that makes sense. And I fully expect that those conversations may be in play very soon. But more than anything else, John, I really am sorry for your loss, man. I know how terrible it is. I know everything that you're going through. I don't know everything you're going through, but you absolutely have my empathy for everything you're going through. And as you work through the process, we're going to be here to help you.
I appreciate it. Do you see, when you say you're working through the issues, do you see that impacting
you need
future?
to file a class action suit against the county.
What's that?
I'm the one getting pissed off. They're like saying, "Oh, I have to work through my insurance." I'm like, what are you talking about? These people almost killed us.
So, Ms. Schmidt, like we talked about, I'm happy to have a conversation offline with you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So sorry, John, keep going.
Yeah, so I just was curious if you were saying you work through the issues. Is that something that's going to be retroactive or future? And both would be beneficial, to be honest, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, John. So I think those are very valid questions and concerns that I don't have answers for you today. That'll have to be part of that legislative process if there is any legislation that's brought. There are some legal issues with things applying retroactive that would potentially need to be worked through, but that'll be part of those conversations, I would expect.
Maybe let me say it differently. Are both options being explored, or is only one of those two being explored?
So to be clear, John, we're at the Division of Insurance. We're not exploring anything as we sit here today. In order to explore things, we have to go through an entire process of getting approval from the governor. I'm just talking to you about what I expect to be the conversations at the Capitol for a whole host of different reasons, both because of the fires last year out in Grand County in particular, and because of this fire too.
Okay. And then what would I need to do to be involved in those discussions?
I would absolutely encourage you to reach out to your state legislators. I know Rep. Amable is on. I know Senator Jaquez Lewis is on as well. And I know that they're listening to these conversations. Like I said, they're going to be part of the town hall with United Policyholders on Sunday. They're engaged in these conversations, but the number of state legislators are. And I can almost promise you that if those two aren't your specific state legislator, whoever are, they're engaged in the conversations too.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, John. So I think, Bill, you snuck in at the end here. We got one more question. So, John, you weren't the last one.
There you go.
Bill, Corey, are you with us? Maybe not. Bill, if you're, oh, looks like you just.
There we go. Okay, there we go. I just really wanted to say I appreciate Michael, you and Tracy and Bobby for taking this effort to come forward. We lived in Sagamore, lost the house, lost car, lost our babies, the kitties, total loss. Our insurance company, Allstate, so far has been compassionate and responsive. My question is going forward. I heard, I've talked to some real estate agents in the area. We're a first responder company, family. So we have gotten into the neighborhood and we've set up multiple warm boxes and with trail cams to see if there's any other kitties that are out there running and moving around. Haven't seen any movement, and are checking the, it's tough. It's a real loss. The house will be repaired. Everything will be replaced. The cats are gone, but process going forward. We've heard rumors, how to clean up. First question, how to get into the house. We lost engagement rings. We lost stuff like that may be melted in the basement. Our car was in the driveway. The aluminum mags in the front of the car were melted and molten. That's 1,250 degrees. So it's a scary situation. The car is completely destroyed. But the first question is how to get into the basement, to try to scan, to try to look for any kind of lost materials that are personal. The second question is, I am assuming the mayor of Superior is getting help from FEMA, because this has got to be overwhelming for him. I'm assuming FEMA is coming in and helping the mayor of Superior to find a general contractor who will clear the whole area at some point. And I'm assuming the mayor of Superior is getting help from FEMA or yourself to find a master builder to build the entire community. We were in Sagamore. Sagamore is gone. We got in because we're a first offender. We're a support community, and we got in. It's 370 holes burning in the ground. Everything is gone. I'm assuming that we will, the only way to build, there's one permit person in the entire town of community of Superior, Ernie. There's no way he's going to get 600 houses and the plan's done. Yep. They're going to have to go to a master builder. I'm assuming that process is going on. Can you give us any insight in, is that the goal?
So Bill, I can't speak for the city of either Superior or Louisville. And it wouldn't be appropriate for me to try and speak for the city of Superior or Louisville. So I can't tell you what they're doing or what their goals may or may not be. But on your first question related to getting into your basement to see if there are any kind of, if there's anything left for you to be able to get to those kind of keepsakes that you were talking through, that you're mentioning. Our best advice on that front is to make sure that you're following the advice of the authorities, the first responders like yourself, that'll be able to tell you when it's safe, or if it's safe to go into your home to try and sift through those materials. But when it comes to the city of Superior and what they may or may not be doing, Bill, it wouldn't be appropriate for me to talk through or to guess. Honestly, I haven't had any direct conversation with them. So as far as a master build or any particular processes that are ideas that might be out there, I just don't have any information for you tonight, Bill. But if we do have information that we can share in the future, I promise you that we will do that. So it looks like we have one last question, folks. And I believe the name, and I'm going to apologize up front because I'm sure I'm not going to pronounce it correctly. But Miral Krishna,
Yeah, I go by Krishna. Thank you so much, everyone. Sorry to kind of add to the question queue. I lost my rental property which is located in Louisville. So I wanted to check if the provisions which you listed out for the dwelling and for the top of the capped amount, which is listed on the policy. For primary residences, generally there's an extension. And that's my question.
So, Krishna, you cut out for a good chunk of your question. I cut out, I should say, for a good chunk of your question, I think. But Tracy or Bobby, did you hear everything?
Didn't hear it. So maybe let me restate it. On your homeowner's policy, you have an extension, but you don't have one on your dwelling. Is that what your question was?
Yes.
So it's just going to be by policy. So even though you own both properties, the policies are individual policies. So if you had something on one policy that was beneficial to you, that's great. You can't apply that to another policy. And I'm so sorry if I'm not understanding your question. And there's my dog.
No worries, no worries. Yeah, my question was slightly different. Are you able to hear me now?
I think so, Krishna.
Okay. Yeah, let me just turn off my video. Maybe that helps. Yeah, my question is, typically there is a dwelling limit which insures the property. But if it's the primary residence, you are allowed, insurance covers up to 20% higher, right? Does that apply to a rental property?
Yep, I think I understand just the dwelling extension. It would have to be the policy driven, unless I'm missing something. Bobby,
No, I think, yeah, I agree. I think it's, so our law requires that the insurance companies offer 20% extended replacement cost coverage, but that is the offer, that requirement is for owner occupied primary residences. That doesn't mean that a rental dwelling couldn't have replacement cost coverage or extended coverage, but that would be by policy contract.
Understood. Thank you. Much appreciated.
All right, folks. That is everybody that we had in queue, and I think I'm going to cut off the questions at this point tonight because we've got to get folks back out to the Disaster Assistance Center, and I can't remember if it's both Bobby and Tracy that are heading out in the morning or just one of them or who exactly. And our meetings start very, very early tomorrow. So thank you all very much for being here tonight. Thank you for taking the time to come and have conversations with us. We're going to continue to be here, folks. We're going to continue to be here to help you and to work through all of these issues. And like I said at the front end of this thing, our hearts go out to you. My heart truly has broken about 1 million times in all of the conversations that I've had over the last 4 or 5 days with folks. But we're going to continue to stand with you, and we're going to continue to make sure that that the insurance companies follow through on the promises that they've made to you and that they want to follow through on. And I have every hope and belief that they really truly will follow through on those promises. So folks, thank you very much. Look for more to come from us in the very near future. We're going to continue to be talking with you. Thanks again.